everyone. Welcome back to Utility Sports, and today we're going to talk about the NBA trade deadline quite a bit more. I also do have some videos coming out on the channel within 10 minutes here from the time I'm starting this live stream. We're also live on Twitter, so if you're watching from Twitter, welcome. Glad to have you watching. This is the first time I've ever streamed on Twitter. I didn't even know that was possible a week ago, but here I am. And also streaming on YouTube, of course. So if you are watching on YouTube, welcome as well, especially if you're watching this live stream after the fact. I will be live today for multiple hours. We're going to talk about a lot of different things about the NBA trade deadline. I'm really excited. This is one of my favorite times of the year, to be honest, because there's a lot of information going around. Yesterday, of course, we had the big, crazy NBA trade looking at Kyrie Irving getting dealt to my Dallas Mavericks, where we traded away one of my favorite players in the organization in Dorian Finney-Smith. So definitely tough, but Kyrie Irving, hopefully he'll play fairly well for Dallas. And this is one of my favorite aspects of streaming here, especially on YouTube, is we get some of these awesome comments like what David's asking here. So welcome everybody to the channel. If you guys are new, hit that subscribe button. And then also, don't forget to throw your comments in the comment section, just like David did here. I'm going to answer questions on the Spurs and every other team that you guys want to know about. So let's get to it. David says, what are my Spurs doing? I saw your previous video on the Spurs, but now that we're days away from the deadline, what do you think we'll do? Curious about your insight. Well, thank you, David, for the question. I think one thing to really watch for is a Jakob Poeltl trade, especially now that the Dallas Mavericks have opened up a need to make some more moves to upgrade this roster. I think Jakob Poeltl to Dallas does make some sense. Could potentially see Doug McDermott routed somewhere as well. You think about landing spots for someone like him. Shooters are very valuable this time of the year. So, I think that there's going to be a pretty good likelihood that somebody like Doug McDermott gets traded. The Lakers could make some sense. Dallas also makes some sense after trading Dorian Finney-Smith away. The Mavs and Lakers are really the two most desperate teams this trade deadline. I wouldn't put the Raptors out of contention, though, for Jakob Poeltl and Doug McDermott, especially when you consider the NBA standings right now. If you just look at where Toronto is in the Eastern Conference, I know they've not been great this year by any stretch, but at 25-30, they're only a game. They're only actually, 2.5 games out of being 8th in the Eastern Conference, and right now they're only a half game out of the play-in. So I think the Raptors could look to buy, potentially. They could also look to sell. They're one of those teams that I think has a wide variety of ways they could go this trade deadline, which makes it really fun to talk about. I think there's a lot of potential options for sure. Big J52 says, yes, sir. Glad to have you in here, Jay. I know you've been watching the channel for a really long time, so I appreciate you stopping in here. I hope you've been enjoying the videos as well up on the channel. We do have 2 brand new ones coming out in 7 minutes, so you guys hopefully will stick with me in the live stream and then maybe go watch those videos later. One of them's a mock draft and the other one's a Mavs trade guide 2.0 because, well, the Mavs made a massive move yesterday that has completely flipped the NBA as we know it. Don't know here says, any update if Orlando will be active on this trade deadline? I don't have anything concrete yet at this point. So every time I answer a question here, it's very easy to want to say, oh yeah, I think they'll be active. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna be upfront and as honest about everything as I can. As of right now, I'm not hearing a lot from the people I talk to, the people I get some of the information from. I'm not hearing a lot about Orlando right now at this given moment. Now, does that mean that they're going to be quiet all trade deadline long? Possibly not, right? We are still days away. So it's going to depend on what really happens, but we'll keep you updated for sure on anything that's going on with the Orlando Magic. I'm very excited about that. Michael Orlando says, what do the Mavericks need the most? Bodies or legit help? If they trade Wood, it makes sense that Dallas wants quantity and not necessarily quality. Yeah, I think the Mavs need quality, though. I think they have some quantity already. Like, to me, Dwight Powell's a body, right? But I think that they need, good, solid players, guys who can actually help you in the postseason. Miles Turner would have been perfect for that team, of course. Ended up renegotiating his contract, though, with Indiana, something we had not seen since 2017 when Robert Covington did so with the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, interestingly enough, we had a question about San Antonio. Jakob Poeltl would actually be able to renegotiate as well this year because the Spurs do have cap space. So the Spurs could look to take in some money as well. But the Mavericks really need rim protection. They need another point of attack defender who can also shoot the three ball, kind of a Dorian Finney-Smith type, funny enough. And then you also probably need to find a way to add another piece in there, someone that can handle the basketball a little bit. It's going to be a tough deadline for the Mavs. To be honest, my trade guide 2.0 was a little lackluster in terms of, hey, these are the guys that can maybe fit some of these roles. I just don't really love the options, to be honest. So we'll see what Dallas does, but I think they have an uphill battle ahead of them. Bulls for Life says, what do you think the Bulls should do? And this is a really great question. To be honest, and this is gonna sound crazy, I really think the Bulls should consider a Zach LaVine trade. I know people are gonna say, whoa, why would they do that? Zach LaVine, they have him under contract. Why would they want to do that? Because his contract is huge. And right now is the time to get off of it. If you can get those 2 Lakers first for him and an expiring in Russell Westbrook, it's probably the best move. I don't know. I don't know if I want to be tethered to Zach LaVine through his 30s. I just don't know if that's the move for me. Aaron Roy here says, hey, what's up, Sheldon? Welcome to the stream, Aaron. Glad to have you in here again today. Remember, we are going to be live all trade deadline week long here. So there's going to be a lot of content coming out. 2 videos today. My guess is multiple videos tomorrow, including one really fun one that I've been really excited to record. And I waited for just a couple days before the trade deadline for it to record. So I'm really excited for the content coming out, guys. So make sure you hit that like button and also subscribe for more in case you aren't subbed already. Jason Liu says, is it too late for the Rockets to fetch even a late first for Eric Gordon? Personally, I think Stone overplayed his hand waiting for a borderline first. What other moves can you see the Rockets making? Jason, unfortunately, I agree with you. I do think that you're not going to get a first round pick for Eric Gordon just at this point where the season's at. I just think the Rockets are probably best suited to even keep him instead of just trading him for pennies on the dollar, because like if you're the Rockets, do 2 second-round picks change your life? I'd rather just have another veteran in the locker room. To be honest, I think they should go add a veteran, even if it's through the buyout market later, which is going to be tough to do for them. Don't get me wrong. You might have to pay that guy, but they need to add some guys who can help this team win. And then for other moves, I think a Kenyon Martin trade is possible. I know, you're not going to love that. I know a lot of Rockets fans really like KJ Martin, and I understand why. Guy's super fun to watch, and he's very athletic. And some of the dunks he throws down, you say, whoa, why is this guy not in the slam dunk contest, right? But I don't know. I think there's going to be interest around the league. Remember this past summer, he requested a trade that was not given to him by Raphael Stone. So I don't know. I think KJ Martin's a possibility, but for the most part, I wouldn't necessarily bet on it though. Kyle here says, which teams in the clogged West do you think will sell and which do you think will buy? And this is a great question right now because the Western Conference is incredibly deep in terms of, where every team's at right now in terms of record and how competitive it is. Like, if you ask me to guess who's going to make the postseason, there's like 13 good options, honestly. So you look at the Nuggets. Nuggets are going to trade Bones Highland. I actually watched the Nuggets play in person last night. They did not play Bones Highland despite not having in that game Jamal Murray, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic. They did not have 4 of their 5 starters, and they still did not play Bones Highland. Bones Highland, they have a trade in the works for him. My guess is it is going to be going to Utah for Jared Vanderbilt. That is my prediction. Now, of course, I could be wrong on that. There's no firm reporting on that. That is just something I have a feel for right now. Could I be completely wrong? I could be. But that's one of those where the money and the type of player Denver's looking to get back, it does make some sense. And Utah, their direction would make some sense exploring a guy like Bones Highland for sure. The Grizzlies, I think that they'll look to make a small move. The Kings are definitely looking to add, although it is tough to see them do that. The Clippers always make a surprise move. This team right here, they're going to add Fred VanVleet, if I had to guess right now. Phoenix, with the supposed trade getting leaked on what they offered, it does make it kind of a little bit tougher to keep Chris Paul, just given the situation. Dallas, they're going to look to buy. Timberwolves are going to make a small move, maybe, but otherwise I could see them kind of sticking with their roster. They played fairly well as of late, as you can see, 7-3 in their last 10. The Warriors, I don't have a good feel for what the Warriors will do. Typically, they don't make trades. This year feels different to me, though. But at the same time, we've just seen Bob Myers doesn't make a lot of trades at the deadline. So I think that they'll maybe sniff around some stuff, but who knows if they actually pull the trigger. The Pelicans, 28-27. They've been losing some games. I just don't know if they're going to be in buy now mode, though, really. The Jazz will sell. Blazers, I think, will sell Josh Hart, but they could potentially look to buy a guy like Jared Vanderbilt from Utah. They could look to buy some other pieces while also doing a little bit of selling. They're kind of a middleman team. The Thunder are going to stand pat. They're not going to make very many moves at all. They've actually been very, very good the last couple weeks of the season here. The Lakers are going to be aggressive in buying, especially with LeBron James' most recent tweet. The Spurs and Rockets will be selling. Rockets don't have as much to sell as the Spurs, who have a little bit more when it comes to veteran play. But those are the teams that I see, making buy-sell moves at this point in the Western Conference. OM Raji says Toronto is in such an interesting spot. Thoughts on what they will do. So I think Toronto is a very interesting team this deadline. And for those of you wondering why they're interesting, in the Eastern Conference right now, they are, again, only a half game out of 10th. And they are, at this point as well, only 2.5 games out of 8th. So if they were to hypothetically get on a little bit of a run and a win streak, they could make a run, right? So I think that's that's one way to look at it. But at the same time, I just don't really believe in the roster. They need shooting. And I think with the expirings that they have, Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr., I think those two guys ultimately get moved. And if an offer comes around for OG Anunoby that's strong enough, he will get moved as well. Van Lee here says, I know we are arch nemesis, but do you have any info on Miami? So that's funny because, of course I'm a Mavs fan. So he's, referencing some of the old finals, 2011, 2006. That's funny. But no, as of Miami right now, I think that they're going to look around at a Kyle Lowry trade. That's kind of some of the info that I've been led to. Supposedly the LA Clippers had a little bit of interest in Kyle Lowry. I don't really believe that. That does not sound like solid reporting to me. So because of that, I see Kyle Lowry possibly getting moved, but it's going to take their first round pick this year to get off of him. So we'll see what type of player they would look to add on top of that. But I think Miami's going to try to be active. I just think it's going to be a tough ask for them to get there completely. Dylan wants to know, do you think Mavs try to get OG Anunoby and go all in? I think they'll try. I don't know if they have enough. When it comes to who's going to actually land OG Anunoby, if I had to take a guess, my answer at this current time would be the Indiana Pacers. They have 3 first-round picks this year that are all tradable. They have Tyrese Halliburton on their roster. They've got Benedict Mathurin. They're looking for a big physical wing who can make plays defensively, knock down open shots. OG Anunoby is kind of that guy. So, I think OG Anunoby's kind of in the process of becoming a little overrated this year just because, he's one of the top trade targets. So naturally everyone's like, oh, you got to go get him. And then kind of there's like this group think where he's here, but then we lift him up to here. He's a good player. I really like OG Anunoby, and I think he is capable of doing a little bit more on offense, which we haven't gotten to see in Toronto just with some of the spacing limitations. And, there's 5 mouths to feed there. When you look at VanVleet, Barnes, Trent, Siakam, Anunoby, it's hard for everybody to get their touches. And Anunoby's been one of those guys that sacrificed a little bit. I think he can do more, but ultimately I think he'll be doing more in Indiana, not Dallas. Van Lee says, would you take Caleb Martin, Oladipo, and Dwayne Dedmon for Christian Wood? I don't think I would. And now, will the Mavs? I think that the Mavs would actually probably have a discussion on that, but I would not take that deal just because, Caleb Martin's solid. I don't want Dwayne Dedmon at all. I don't think he has any value for the Mavericks. And Oladipo, I understand, like point of attack defender, semi-athletic still. Like, I just don't know. I don't love it. Bulls for Life says, I think DeMar should go. Or if you're asking me if I think DeMar should go, if I'm a Bulls fan, I'd say no. DeMar's the best player on the roster. I really wanted DeMar DeRozan when he was a free agent. I wanted him to go to Dallas with Porzingis and Doncic. I thought he would have been the perfect veteran to add in, somebody who could get you buckets in the mid-range, but also is a very underrated playmaker. I don't think the Bulls should trade him, but I do think a lot of teams should be interested in acquiring him, no question. Michael Orlando says, makes sense. Orlando has quite a few players not getting play time like Ross, Truman, RJ Hampton. I think they could all be had if Dallas calls. Yeah, I agree with that. For Orlando, it's, I don't know. There's players there that like just don't play that you would think like, oh, well, they should be available then. Like, sort of. I don't know. There's these guys that, like, if you're not getting play time for the Orlando Magic, why would a team want to buy you? That's kind of my one concern with that. Derek Brooks says, excited for your content this week. You've always been good for Pistons discourse. I don't see Bogdanovich or Burks being moved, but I do see Sadiq Bay getting traded. Just a hunch. Nerlens to your Mavs also. Yeah, I forgot to include Nerlens Noel in my trade guide that came out just a couple minutes ago here now for the Dallas Mavericks. I should have. As soon as I got done processing the video and posting it into YouTube, I thought, wow, I completely spaced out Nerlens Noel's name. I did talk about Sadiq Bay, though, so hopefully Pistons fans at least, kind of put two and two together and think, oh, Nerlens Noel could be a fit too. That's one of the better options, honestly, for Dallas this trade deadline, in my opinion, which isn't great, but it's okay. Big J52 says, if my Wizards are committed to keeping Kuzma, trading Rui and giving Denny a bigger role but not contending this year, should they lock in on a core 8 and expose Kispert, Barton, and picks for a vet 3 and D wing or a big? No, I don't think anything that the Wizards should do should be focused on buying. In fact, and I don't think anything they should do should be focused on locking anything in. To be honest, if I were them, I would likely try to trade Kyle Kuzma, and I know that's not what they're going to do. So don't get me wrong here. I completely understand. The Wizards are committed to keeping Kuzma. I'm just speculating what I would necessarily do if I was in the shoes of Tommy Shepard. I would trade Kuzma. I think his value is at the very top it's ever going to be. He and OG Anunoby are really the top wings likely available this trade deadline. And if 3 firsts are potentially getting floated for OG Anunoby, if I'm Washington, I'm seeing what I can get for Kuzma on the open market. I'm seeing how desperate the Lakers are, especially since he could potentially still leave in free agency. Now, will he? Possibly not. The Wizards might just give him a huge bag and say, look, we want you around. But I mean, if you give him a huge bag, you think about the Wizards this year, they're 10th in the East. They're 4 games below 500. I just don't know if that's the team I want to lock in on, but I think that's the team they will lock in on. So I think you're right that that's probably what they'll do, but I just don't think they should do that. Brian K says, Bulls are 3 games back to 6 seed. They aren't selling, they're buying. It's just the reality of how they operate. I mean, if you want to think that, I don't know. They're a team that has been relatively healthy compared to other teams. I know, Lonzo Ball, he's not going to play this season. Lonzo's out for the year. Obviously not reported yet, but I'm telling you, he's not playing this season. So if the Bulls want to buy, they should buy, but I mean, it's not going to be a smart move. They don't even really have that many draft assets to go buy. So I don't know. Iceberg Original says, do you have your eyes on any under-the-radar impact players? I think a guy like Mo Bamba could have a big impact on a contender like Celtics, and I'm guessing he meant Mavs there. For Mo, I don't know. I think he could play a role, like 15 to 20 minutes a game. Big impact, I think, is a little strong. Big impact players are guys who play like 28 to 34 minutes a night in the postseason. I think Bamba would be helpful for sure, but what do the Magic want for him? Do you have to give up a protected first-round pick? Do you have to give up second-rounders? Do you have to give up a good young player back? If the answer to any of those questions for Bamba is yes, then I don't think the Mavericks are going to do that. I think Boston could sniff around it, though. They've been reportedly interested in Kelly Olynyk as well, so they're looking at some size for sure. Bamba definitely could be an interesting fit there, and I do think you're right that he could have a decent impact in that situation. Aaron Roy says, Knicks need to consolidate some of these picks to get someone like OG. RJ is now to 2. Sucks that the Mavs 23 pick value sucks. Now, I mean, I always thought the Mavs were going to be like pretty good this year. They'd been kind of floating around 4th or 5th in the West the entire season. I don't even know if the Kyrie trade really changes the value of the pick that much. I think the Mavericks could still be a 2nd round exit. I still think that maybe they can make the Western Conference Finals. Now, if they make the finals, obviously the value of that pick goes significantly down, but it's still very possible that that pick is in the, early 20s. It could be like 23, 24-ish if they're 2nd round exits. So I don't know. It's not completely not valuable now at this point. But I think the Knicks, what they're going to do, and I had a mock draft come out today. What I ultimately think they'll do is they'll get to their picks and they'll trade them out again for future first, and then they're going to keep their flexibility open to make a bigger trade down the road, which I actually think is very smart for them. Here we have a question from Chad. He says, do you think Bojan or Bay will get traded? That's a great question. As for Bojan, I don't think he will. I think Sadiq Bay is about a 60-40 split right now. 60% of me believes he will. 40% of me believes the Pistons are going to want a little bit too much for him, and teams aren't going to be able to get to that spot. Kind of think the Jeremy Grant offers for how long that kind of extended in Detroit. It felt like he was on the trade block at the deadline 2 years in a row, and he never even got dealt during the deadline, ended up being a trade in the summer. So we could see the same thing happen with Sadiq Bay this year. Eric Gomez says Nets are either going to rebuild or contend by the end of this trade deadline. So when it comes to the Nets, they're going to contend. I think that people really are underrating Dorian Finney-Smith. They don't understand how important he is in a series against, a guy like Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. Players like him are very important when it comes to winning in the postseason and playing off of Kevin Durant offensively. He's going to be an expert in that role. So I think everything's going to work out very well for Brooklyn. I think they nailed the trade yesterday with the Dallas Mavericks, and I think that they're in a very, very good spot now moving forward. Robert Lamison says, you guys enjoyed the game last night? Yes, it was a lot of fun. Timberwolves ended up winning by 30 against the Denver Nuggets backups. But it's always fun going there. You got to watch some Nate Knight. I'm a big Nate Knight guy. I love watching his game. It was very interesting. So Bones Highland did not play at all. He actually, I believe that was one of his first DNP CDs of the season. Let me check back in on that quick. I did not end up. Oh, no, it's actually his 3rd straight in a row. So he has not played in 3 straight games. The game before that, he only played 5 minutes. So it basically gives me really good confirmation that he is going to be traded. So it was to the point where Peyton Watson even played last night with all the starters out, and Bones Highland did not. Ninja says, what do you think of Jared Vanderbilt and Jordan Clarkson to the Kings for Davion Mitchell, Terrence Davis, Rashawn Holmes, and 4 second-round picks? I like that for the Kings. I don't think that's good enough for Utah's perspective. I don't think it's super far off. 4 second-round picks is pretty valuable. I think people underrate the value of second-round picks all the time. I think second-rounders are viewed as assets positively by executives and GMs and decision makers. Davion Mitchell I really, really like, but just with Utah, like Davion Mitchell's probably going to be a career like off the bench defending type. I just don't know if that's the guy that they flip Vanderbilt and Clarkson for, specifically Clarkson, because they really, really like him. Brisket says Raptors actually do anything or not. Yeah, they will. Raptors for sure make 2 trades this deadline and potentially 3 with OG Anunoby. I'm for sure certain that they're going to make 1 around Fred VanVleet, and I'm very confident they'll make a 2nd with Gary Trent Jr. Menacing Gaming YT says, what about Raptors trade OG and Flynn for Shadon Hart and Keon Johnson? If I'm Portland, I'd be very, very careful about trading Shadon Sharp. OG Anunoby is a great fit. I do think he would help that team a lot. I don't hate it. I don't. But I don't know. Shadon Sharp's very, very good as a young player already. He's not like very good, like, oh, he's going to be a big-time playoff contributor. But, like, you watch him and you say, yeah, okay, I trust that the potential is going to kind of come to fruition with this kid. The Raptors, I'm sure, would love to get Shadon Sharp, former 7th overall pick. Of course, this past offseason, there was reports that maybe OG Anunoby could be traded for the 7th overall selection. Nothing came to fruition through that. But for me, I think the Blazers say no to this. But I think it's something that maybe has a little bit of traction when it comes to actual discussions. Jordan Thackeray says Pistons plan to be aggressive in the offseason. What small moves could you see them doing? I like Ayo Dosunmu from the Bulls, possibly. I don't think that Ayo Dosunmu is going to be available. And for the Pistons, I don't even think they need any more guards. Just at this point, they could use a veteran guard, whatever. But I don't think Ayo Dosunmu is necessarily the guy for them. I would like to see them add a wing if they were making a buy now move. But I don't really see them doing that. Reportedly, they'll be interested in Jeremy Grant this offseason if he hits free agency, which I'm guessing he will, since his max contract with the Blazers is only 4 years, $112. So, I mean, it's possible, but at the end of the day, I don't know. I think Pistons probably are going to be quiet this trade deadline. Amit the Goat says, yo, welcome to the stream, Amit. Glad to have you in here. It's Juice says, explain in simple terms to my girlfriend why Kyrie Irving coming to Dallas is bad. So Dallas, this is now my whole, I'm going to be a total nerd here, and I'm going to try and keep it as simple as possible. So Dallas had one swing. Think about playing baseball. You have one swing to hit a home run. Otherwise, you're potentially striking out. Striking out means you lost Luka Doncic in free agency in a couple of years, or you have to trade him away because he demands out. Hitting a home run means you convince him that this team is going to be able to win a championship at some point, whether that means you do it this year or not. I don't necessarily mean that. I mean, you have to advance in the playoffs, though. Kyrie Irving has to be a good fit, and you have to be competitive, like really competitive this year. That's a home run. The reason why it's bad is because you gave up, in my opinion, 2 of your top 4 players in Dorian Finney-Smith and Spencer Dinwiddie. I would say the top 4 guys before the trade were those 2 plus Wood and Luka, obviously. So there's your 4 best players. You traded half of them for Kyrie Irving. Now, yes, Kyrie Irving is a significant upgrade over Spencer Dinwiddie, who, by the way, he was having a very good year, averaging 18 points a game, 40% from 3, 45% from the field. He was very productive and was playing like a really great fit next to Luka Doncic in the starting lineup. So trading him, I guess you got better, but you also didn't improve your depth. Markieff Morris to me is a nothing. And since they gave up their 2029 first, they can't trade their 2028 first now. And because of the backup protections to the Knicks, they can't trade any other first other than 2027 right now. The whole thing's kind of a disaster. They're in a tough spot, and Kyrie Irving could leave in free agency in 3 months. That's really the scary part. That would put the whole thing into disaster mode. Michael Ferlano says, Raps fan here, we want to trade Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam as soon as possible. I don't think the Raptors trade Siakam, Michael. Unfortunately, if you want to trade him, as a Mavs fan, I would love to take him off your hands. I really like Pascal Siakam. I think he's a really great player. I would love to have him on my team. I don't think they'll trade him. I think most likely the 2 guys they trade will be Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr., and then potentially the big one will be OG Anunoby if they trade him. And Michael says Dallas doesn't have enough to get him. I know. Dallas doesn't have enough to get anybody because they don't know how to manage their assets. Neil says OG also has ties to Indiana. He has communicated a desire to be in Indy, which I imagine is attractive to the Pacers. Yeah, exactly. I think OG Anunoby to Indiana is a definitive likelihood. If he were to be traded, that's the team I would guess he goes to. Amit the Goat says, over the last week or so, Fred VanVleet has been playing significantly better. Do you think that could mean he's staying, or the Raptors are still going to try and trade him? What I think that means is I think the Raptors are going to try and maximize his value. They're going to point out, hey, look, he had a 30-point triple-double a couple games ago. He's been shooting the ball very well. He's a nice physical defender, despite his limitations in terms of size. Of course, that sounds a little bit more interesting than it should. But the Raptors, I think, will trade him, just given the situation. But the one thing though, they did this with Kyle Lowry too back in the day. They were comfortable with just letting him test free agency and then trying to get a sign and trade done with him. But Orlando does have cap space this summer, and they're kind of flexing that they'd be willing to offer Fred VanVleet significant money. So that does put a little bit of pressure on Toronto to maybe do something. Robert says Luka won't be double teamed as much now. Yeah, I know he won't be, but I mean, we also don't have the ability to guard anybody now. So we'll see how that goes. Mile High says, who do you think the Nuggets could get for Bones Highland? The player I really like for them is Jared Vanderbilt, but I also wouldn't rule out Matisse Thybulle from the 76ers. Now, the 76ers don't make as much sense as a Bones Highland landing spot because, they have Maxey, they have Harden, they have Melton. But I think what we would see is maybe a third team come into that picture that gets Bones Highland. The 76ers send Thybulle to Denver, and then maybe some draft compensation or other components that the Sixers could use. Maybe a backup big goes to Philadelphia. I think that's kind of the framework of a deal that does make actual sense in that way. And I think that there's other options out there too, right? There's players all around that you could see get traded. But the two that are my favorite right now for Bones Highland are Jared Vanderbilt and Matisse Thybulle. Even says Bones is a good player. I agree. I really like Bones. I loved him coming out of the draft out of ECU. He's a deep range shot maker. I think he's a growing playmaker as well. So I think he's going to help whatever team ultimately lands him. We'll see where he ends up going at the trade deadline. Tyler says, what's your prediction about a Jay Crowder deal? Jay Crowder will be traded to the Milwaukee Bucks, ultimately likely for Grayson Allen, if I had to guess, and some draft compensation. Robert Lamison says, I think the Thunder should go after a 4 or 5 to help them rebound and defend in the paint. I agree that they need those things, but I think they're just going to be patient, to be honest. I think they're going to keep their assets. I think they're going to say, look, we have Chet Holmgren waiting in the wings. Let's just be patient. And then maybe this draft, they'll look to address some needs of size with either a big wing or, maybe a physical 4 like a Jarris Walker in this year's draft as well. Could make some sense. Michael says, I think that 2029 first might come back to bite Dallas. Yeah, it will. It will come back to bite them because it's very likely that Luka Doncic is not a Dallas Maverick at the time that pick conveys to Brooklyn, and it's unprotected, which is terrifying. Even Best says, do the Knicks have another player they can go for to strengthen the bench? It depends on what happens with Evan Fournier. The Knicks, big asset to trade in terms of money to get something better in is Evan Fournier. Is there something there? Are they willing to trade picks to do that? Possibly. OG Anunoby does make sense for the New York Knicks in terms of, fit, what he would bring for Tom Thibodeau. Positionally, he fits in. I think the one thing about OG Anunoby is one of the most flexible, versatile wings in the league. He's going to fit onto pretty much every single team, kind of like a Mikal Bridges type. And I think the Knicks would be a lot better going out and getting him, but we'll see what they actually end up doing. Joseph says, did any other trades go down besides the Kyrie trade? As of right now, the only 2 trades up to this point have been Rui Hachimura to the Los Angeles Lakers and Kyrie Irving to the Dallas Mavericks. So it's been quiet up to this point, but remember, we are keeping our eyes on everything. So it's possible that some more moves go down ultimately. Ninja Style says, I would absolutely love for the Kings to trade for Sadiq Bay. They should definitely circle that name on their board as a trade target. I would like that. It'd be fun for them to get another physical wing, but I ultimately think the guy they end up with, if he doesn't go to Denver, is Matisse Thybulle from the 76ers. I really like that fit as well. He kind of really fits Mike Brown's offensive scheme well, and I think he gives you another versatile, lengthy defender next to Sabonis, which is needed. Ahmed the Goat says, at Michael Furlano, so we have a little bit of discussion going on in the comment section. I love that. Says, as a Raptors fan, I'd like to trade him. This week he's been playing better, which means he could be upping his trade value. So I don't think the Lakers or Clippers could make an offer. I think the Clippers will make an offer, and I think the Clippers are ultimately going to be the team that gets him. Michael says, imagine that the Raps get 4 firsts for OG from the Knicks. Please, finesse. Yeah, it definitely could be a possibility. The Knicks, it would be a little weird, though, because the Knicks didn't trade all of that for Donovan Mitchell. So are they willing to do that for OG Anunoby? That's interesting. Mickey Turner says Mavs need Pirtle and Josh Richardson. Spurs need draft picks, young players, and a chance at one of the top 2 players in this draft. They're making a trade. Makes the most sense. I understand this. And to be honest, if I had to guess a deal that Dallas makes, this is probably the deal that I would guess. Something around Pirtle and Richardson or Pirtle and McDermott. The one thing I'm going to say, though, about this, and, whether the Mavs do it or not is a completely different discussion. I think the Mavs will be open to it. Pirtle doesn't fit what the Mavericks need. I know he's a center, and I know everyone's going to look and say, oh, he's better than Dwight Powell. They need that. Yeah, I get it. Yes, they need somebody who's better than Dwight Powell playing center. But for what they're trying to build, the way that they're trying to play, a drop coverage big would be a nightmare. It would be a nightmare. Imagine switching Luka onto Steph Curry or Kyrie onto Steph Curry in the postseason, and then, up comes Draymond Green to set a screen, and Jakob Poeltl's going to have 2 feet in the paint defending that. Oh, boy. Okay. You see what I'm saying? Yes, they need a center, but they need a center who can defend out on the perimeter, which is really hard to find. That's why Pistons fans are super lucky to have Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart. Those are 2 guys who are capable of doing that. So, I don't know. The Mavs need a lot of help, and to be honest, it's just not going to play out that well. Jamie says, which of the Hornets do you think is most likely to be moved? Mitch has a history of being very reserved when it comes to trading, especially at the deadline. Yeah, so I think Terry Rozier is a semi-likely option to get traded. If I had to guess, out of all the players, I think he's the most likely. I think he's the most likely to make the move. Van Lee says, bro, you low-key gave away the front office you work with. Not going to stitch on you, though. I knew all along. That's funny, Van. I'm gonna keep it on the DL. Don't let everyone else know, but I'm keeping it on the DL. Robert Lamison says, I think KD gets traded either by Thursday or in the offseason. I think the Nets are about to rebuild. I think it will not be this trade deadline. I think it's just really, really quick for something to come together on Durant. Ultimately, I think that the offseason is a possibility, but I think he would have to redemand a trade. So there's steps that have to happen in there first. Lonnie says, I suggested to you yesterday, my friend, that your Mavs should pursue Noel from the Pistons, make a Sadiq Bay and Noel trade for picks and a few vets, and your Mavs and my Pistons have a nice deal. Definitely a possibility. I don't absolutely love the framework. Nerlens Noel is okay. I don't think he's as good as, you would think about he's a rim protecting center who can catch lobs and rim run. He just doesn't give you a lot outside of that. Obviously, neither does Dwight Powell, so don't get me wrong. He's an upgrade. I'm not saying he isn't. But this is the issue with the Mavs this year is do Sadiq Bay and Nerlens Noel change you from a second round, exit to a finals contender? Probably not, right? But the Mavs are kind of in a spot where they have to make some other trade to improve. So that's probably one of the ones that they really consider. So Lonnie, you're probably right about what they're going to look to do. A11 Gravy says, when you think MJ going to get LaMelo Ball some help, or should they tank for Victor or Scoot? Yeah, they should not trade for anybody this year. If anything, they should trade players away. Michael Jordan and Mitch Kupchak have to be active to trade guys at the deadline to try and get any assets, just because their team's not going to get their team's just not going to get better by playing with some of these older guys. They're just going to continue to regress. So trade Hayward if you can. Trade Terry Rozier if you can. I think you're cooking with fire. Sir Cat says OG's not getting traded. Pascal is. I don't believe that. I don't think Pascal Siakam is going to get traded. Jason Kimball says, who do you think the Clippers trade for? That's a great question. Glad to have Clippers fans in here. Clippers fans tend to stay under the radar for the most part, so I'm glad to have a few of you in here. As for who they trade for, I think Fred VanVleet is the most likely option. I think that you look at some of the moves that they've made in the past. Typically, they trade for guys who were teammates with Kawhi Leonard in Toronto. I think it's pretty clear that Kawhi Leonard is impacting the front office. And, one of them specifically would be Fred VanVleet. This time you think about some of the other guys. They added Serge Ibaka later on. Of course, traded him away, but they added Norm Powell as well. They've been kind of linked to a lot of different Raptors. So I think it's possible we could see Fred VanVleet there as well. Van Lee says, do you think reporters, journalists, front office guys, or ex-players make the best NBA YouTubers? No, not really. Ex-players are interesting. They're fun to listen to because, they have insight to certain things. Reporters, journalists, it depends on which one, right? It's hard to categorize the entire group. Some of them are good. I enjoy listening to some of them, in some discussions and stuff. But front office guys are usually terrible. I tried listening to Bob Meyer's new podcast, and I got about 6 minutes in, and I said, I have to stop listening to this. I was just so bored. So I couldn't do it. But like Venkata says here, Clippers will get Fred VanVleet. That's the exact guess I have. Matthew says, any Spurs news? We're looking at a potential Jakob Poeltl trade. There's nothing concrete yet, but I think Poeltl's the most available player that they have. Jack Welch wants to know, what are the Cavaliers going to do? This is a great question. For Cleveland, it's funny. I think that they go back to talking to Utah, specifically about some of the other players that the Utah Jazz have. Maybe a guy like Malik Beasley could make some sense. We've seen the Jazz and Cavs make a ton of trades during Justin Zanuck's time as GM of the Utah Jazz. Of course, everyone knows the Donovan Mitchell trade, but even think about, the initial Jordan Clarkson trade. I think there's a pathway here where the Cavs look to add a wing from Utah. That's really one that I'd like to highlight, and I think there's other options out there too. Jason says, Mavs got Kyrie. I'm okay with that, but honestly, I think Clips package was better. Your thoughts? So this is I agree, Jason, that in a vacuum, the Clippers offer is better because I think that they offered a little bit more in terms of draft picks and swaps and some of that stuff. So I agree with you, but you have to think relative. They're trying to win, and this is a great example of how I know they're trying to win. They got these assets with the intention of trying to stop certain guys. So when it comes to, the reported offer of Luke Kennard's very good, but does he help you against Boston trying to slow down Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown? Does he help you against Milwaukee trying to slow down Giannis Antetokounmpo, trying to present some size at Chris Middleton? Not really. You think about Dorian Finney-Smith, he does help you in those ways. That's why I know that the Nets are trying to win this year. That's how I know the Nets are not going to trade Kevin Durant unless something completely unforeseen happens, like Kevin Durant comes out and says, look, I just don't want to be here anymore. Please trade me this deadline. Please. Or and then maybe he put some pressure on saying he'll sit out or something. But I think realistically, the Mavs offer was better for what the Nets needed, which was size and defense. You look at the shooting they already have. They have, guys like Joe Harris, Seth Curry, Patty Mills. Some of those guys don't even get minutes anymore. That's kind of the way I look at it. I agree in terms of value that the Clippers offer was maybe better, but I think Dorian Finney-Smith was more important for them to get in terms of some of those matchups in the East. Daniela says, how about the Nets getting a player like Kelly Oubre? That's an interesting question. Kelly Oubre likely gets traded as well. I just don't think it'll be Brooklyn. That would kind of surprise me. I think Kelly Oubre could get routed to a few different places. For example, one team that I could see being in on Kelly Oubre would maybe be Milwaukee. You look at the money that they have there, that could make some sense as an option. Cleveland would probably like to add a Kelly Oubre type, although I don't think he's seamless. I don't think he's a seamless fit at all, in fact, but I think he could be an option on the wing. And then you look at maybe, a team as well in the West that we could look to add Kelly Oubre to. I think Sacramento would make a little bit of sense, looking for a little bit more athleticism and length. Phoenix as well, in a Jay Crowder 3-team deal type of structure could make a little bit of sense. And then maybe, I don't love it, but maybe Portland, just given the fact that they're likely going to trade Josh Hart. That's an option as well. Van Lee says, is Ben Simmons the biggest number one pick flop of all time, keeping his terrible contract in mind? No, Kwame Brown was just so bad that, Michael Olowokandi. There's just guys who are way worse basketball players than Ben Simmons. Simmons is going to have like a 12, 13-year career still. I don't doubt that for a second. So, no, I don't think so. I think Simmons is still a good player. He's made all-star games. He's more accomplished than a lot of other number one overall picks. Like, look at Anthony Bennett, right? That's, but I understand your point. That contract's probably one of the worst contracts in the NBA right now. But ultimately, I don't think that he's as big of a flop as some other guys. Robert Lamison says, hit the like button. You guys know what to do. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe as well. I would really, really greatly appreciate it. A lot of time and effort goes into these live streams. Of course, you guys can tell that I put a lot of work in to be prepared for these, to answer your guys' questions. Of course, I don't know what you're going to ask ahead of time, so I have to be prepared to talk about pretty much everything. And if I don't know something, I try and, share that I'm not fully certain on something, because I just don't want to be out here spreading misinformation or saying, oh, this is going to happen, because, I just want to be as accurate as possible. That's really the most important thing when it comes to some of these discussions on trades. Corey Cox wants to know about Houston. The Rockets, I think they're going to be more suited for a quiet trade deadline, to be honest with you. I know the fun answer is, they're going to make all these trades, they'll go get a start. It's just not going to happen with Houston this year. I think that with where they're at, they're more concerned about their draft positioning. Maybe they'll trade Eric Gordon for some second-round picks, possibly. And I think their sleeper player to trade is KJ Martin. I know Rockets fans really like him. I think a lot of teams could really use a KJ Martin with his athleticism. I also think he's another nice fit for Sacramento. But, ultimately, Houston's going to be relatively quiet. Bulls for Life says, you think the Bulls could and should go for Gary Trent and Van Vliet? The answer to that for me is no. I think the Bulls should not be in a buying situation right now. I think the Bulls need to be patient, maybe trade Vucevic away or LaVine away if they can get those Lakers first rounders. In case the Lakers are kind of acting desperately right now, I would trade LaVine for those two Lakers first for sure. I think that should be Chicago's priority at this point. And then they can be patient, see what their team really looks like. I feel bad for them. A lot of their roster was built on the idea of having Lonzo Ball. And just the fact that they have not really does hurt some of their long-term situation. Chaz here says Raps want what Nola has. Fred VanVleet or Anunoby. I think Anunoby is the more likely one to New Orleans. They have a ton of picks, which definitely opens the door to a deal. They've got some intriguing young wings like a Trey Murphy. They have a Najee Marshall. To be honest, if I'm the Pelicans, I probably don't do it. I just like what they have in terms of young guys like Herb Jones. Again, Najee Marshall. I really like Trey Murphy as well. I know that OG Anunoby is better than all of those guys. I do. But at the same time, he's more expensive, and he's going to become even more expensive once his contract expires next season. So I don't know. That's kind of my current situation with that. Unlimited Range, welcome to the live stream today. He says, would the Nets be interested in LaVine? They have the 76ers and Mavs picks. Potentially. I just think that that's kind of risky. Just given the situation right now with the whole Kevin Durant drama, potentially could ask for a trade, right? I think that they need to be smart about those picks. And I mean, LaVine is kind of the type of player that you would think, oh, well, that's what they should want to add, right? But is LaVine, I don't know, is LaVine good enough to be your number two player? Maybe next to Durant, maybe. So that's like kind of why you do it. But let's say against Boston, who do you have him guard? Like, does he guard Marcus Smart? Like, what about when Malcolm Brogdon's in the game? Zach LaVine defensively still just so poor that I don't know if I would be willing to do that if I'm Brooklyn. But I do understand the idea, and I don't think it's necessarily terrible. Jose Calderon says Dallas should look into Jakob Poeltl, and I think they likely will. We've talked about this one on the channel quite a bit today already, but I think Jakob Poeltl's not an ideal fit for Dallas because he's going to have to play drop coverage. I think that's going to be kind of risky against some of the better Western Conference teams. I think Jamal Murray would eat that alive. So I don't know. Poeltl's an upgrade, but I don't know if he's like the perfect fit in terms of, hey, this is the play style you're going to get out of him. Tyler Carver says Bucks have been playing great lately. What moves do you see them making? I see them making a move for Jay Crowder, Tyler. I think you asked about Crowder. I think that's really the most likely of the options right now, just given the fact of how good they've been this season. Even with Chris Middleton kind of being a little shaky this year, they kept their head above water, and now Middleton's back. I know he had 20 points the other night, a 20-plus point game. He's been playing a little bit better as of late as well. So I think the Bucks, they just need to make a small move. A guy like Jay Crowder is pretty much all they need to add, in my opinion. Murphy says 76ers not giving Thibault to Denver for trash. Well, this is always the fun discussion at this point of the year. Matisse Thybulle, I understand people like him. Here's his minutes played per game this season. 12 minutes. In the regular season, he's playing 12 minutes a game. He's averaging less than 3 points. His last 6 games go 10 minutes, 16 minutes, 10 minutes, 11 minutes, 12 minutes, 12 minutes. I mean, he's available. He's on the last year of his contract. People are always going to push back on certain things. Thibel's available, and he's either going to be a King or a Nugget, in my opinion, or it could be a Dallas Mavericks as well, I guess. Don't Know says, how about Kennard for Bamba, 2025 Boston, Memphis, second-round pick swap, and a 2026 Bucks second-round pick? That deal's really good for Orlando. I understand the Clippers, you look at their roster and say, oh, they need another 5. They're not going to trade for a 5. The Clippers are still committed and convinced that small ball 5-out offense is the way that they want to play. You could argue that that's not the best way for them to play, and I agree. But that's what they're going to do. I don't think they're going to trade for Bamba at all. Michael says Scotty had 13 in the fourth and won us the GameStop. Loving Siakam. He's not going to take us anywhere. I'm kind of surprised by a lot of the Siakam hate in the comment section right now. OM Reiji says, what would a trade package involving Fred VanVleet and Gary Trent even look like? Probably at least a first-round pick for each of them is what I'd have to guess. Maybe a first and a half for each of them. So, to get both of them, maybe you give up 3 picks. Likely they're both in their own individual deals, though. I don't think they'll get traded together in the same trade. Ninja says Kyrie Irving is like Galactus, and NBA teams are his worlds, destroying them and moving on to the next. They're flat worlds, though. They are, and that's Kyrie Irving style. So that's I think that's perfectly explained, to be honest. Can you explain what an OG to Indiana deal would look like? I definitely can. Let's go ahead and actually let's get that one up on the stream here, because I do think that is a fun one to talk about. So let me go ahead and get that up here now for you guys. Are you mad? Says Jay Crowder is going to the Heat on a buyout. I don't think that'll happen. I ultimately think Jay Crowder will be traded, and I do think he will be traded to the Milwaukee Bucks for sure. So definitely some crazy options. Let's go ahead and talk, though, about OG Anunoby to the Indiana Pacers and what that could potentially look like. I did have one of those up on our Twitter. Go right now in the description. Go give us a follow on Twitter. I do have the link in the description at the very top of it. I'm very active on Twitter, and I also respond to DMs and mentions on there very frequently. So you guys should definitely go check that out. And I actually think that this is being a little problematic. So let me go this way and do this, because I feel like the stream was having a little bit of issue. If the stream got a little laggy for you, just refresh. It should be completely fine after you do refresh it. Let's go ahead and get this shared on the screen now. What a potential trade would look like. Welcome everyone to the channel as well. Glad to have you guys still all watching. If you are new, please hit that like button on the live. It lets me know I'm doing a good job. And also hit the subscribe button if you are new to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Let's see if I can find exactly what I'm looking for. I'm trying to find a mock trade I had between the Indiana Pacers and the Toronto Raptors. Here we go. Let's get this up on the screen now. All right, so here we go. This is kind of what I was looking at. I said, who says no here? I got some comments over here too saying the Pacers say no. Sorry, I did not respond to those, unfortunately. Whoops. But the Toronto Raptors give up receive Daniel Tice, Goga Bitadze, and they receive 3 first-round picks, 2 of them this year and 1 next year from Indiana, as well as 2 second-round picks for OG Anunoby. This, I think, could be the framework of a deal between Indiana and Toronto. Like, both sides probably don't like it, which is why this deal, I think, is realistic. Pacers fans are going to say, whoa, why are we giving up 3 first-round picks in this? 2 of them are, going to be in the 20s this year. The Cavs and Celtics picks are going to be kind of lower-end picks. The 2024 first, though, probably fairly valuable in my estimation. Just looking at Indiana, I know they've had a nice year this year, but nothing's guaranteed. That's still a pretty solid pick to add in. You get 3 firsts for OG Anunoby if you're Toronto. But then, Raptors fans are going to say, well, we don't want Daniel Tice for 2 more years. And that's part of why you're getting those extra second rounders as well. You're kind of getting incentivized to take on a contract that works that way. Murphy Brown says, who cares about a pick 6 years down the line? That's why team building is important. And if you want to know why the Lakers are kind of in trouble, it's because they don't consider that. So the Mavs will pay for trading that 2029 first. Here, Are You Mad says, what would it take for the Nets to get Pascal? That's not happening. Definitely not happening. Wrestling with Rit says, maybe to get Kyrie to re-sign, Cuban will come out as a flat earther. He's going to have to. That's going to have to be his way of trying to get something done for sure. Stan Stewart wants to know when the deadline is. The deadline, guys, is Thursday, February 9th at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So we are a few days away yet. This is, very early days of the trade deadline, but I thought it was going to be a lot of fun to, come on live, kind of prep you guys for what to watch for over the next couple days. If I had to guess, today is going to be a little bit quieter, probably not any big moves. But at the same time, if you would have asked me yesterday morning, I would have guessed, hey, there's no Kyrie trade today. And then he ended up getting traded. So, sometimes things progress faster than I expect. And I end up being wrong about some things every once in a while. Robert Kobe says, do you think Dallas will be involved in other trades? I do. I actually have a Mavs trade guide 2.0 up on the channel right now that I recommend you go check out after today's live stream. It'll break down a bunch of different avenues for Dallas to continue to improve this roster next to now Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, which, by the way, it sounds really weird to say that. Troy Dilworth says, Gordon plus KJ Martin for Collins. That has been talked about. I love KJ and feel like Collins is just a slightly taller version. Adding Collins' contract, I say no as a Rockets fan. Yeah, I think that's a no as a I think that's a no for the Hawks as well, which I know sounds interesting because how do you have a deal that both sides don't really like the value? I just don't think that Eric Gordon fits what the Hawks are looking to add right now, and I don't think KJ Martin's somebody that they have circled, if that makes sense. So, I just think all in all, I think the Hawks are going to try and move Collins for a pick somewhere, and I think one of the most likely outcomes is Phoenix. Salvador says, hi, my friend. Welcome to the stream. Glad to have each and every one of you guys watching. 181 people in here right now. Let's go ahead and try and get the likes up on this stream. I'm going to check right now how many we're at, and we'll see. I want it to be over 100 likes. I know that's really ambitious, but let's try and get there right now with this live stream. I'm checking it as we currently speak, so we'll see what that is actually looking like here in just a second. Currently, we are at 51 likes, so we're over halfway. Let's try and get that number to 100 likes right now. Ziv says Derrick Rose for Davis Bertans. He could run that second unit. I don't think the Knicks will do that. I don't think the Knicks are looking to get Davis Bertans in the building, unfortunately. Jay Anderson here with a little bit of Pistons propaganda says Kevin Durant to the Pistons. That'd be fun. I ultimately don't think it happens, but it'd be fun. Anton Official says, what's the plan for the Lakers? I think the Lakers are going to aggressively pursue Zach LaVine now at this point. Now, does Zach LaVine actually get traded? That's a different question. But I think they're going to pursue him. I think they're going to sniff around any other really good player that becomes available. Not even high-level star anymore. Not a Kyrie level player, but someone who's on a somewhat similar level. So a LaVine, somebody around LaVine's level. If there's any rumors that guy's available, I think the Lakers will be involved in discussions there. Nick says, who will be the biggest seller at the deadline? To me, the answer to that is either Utah or the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors have a ton of pieces teams are interested in. They've got better pieces than what Utah has to offer, in my opinion, but Utah's got more pieces to offer. They've got 7 or 8 tradable players that could bring value to another team. So I think those are the two biggest sellers in my eyes. Jimmy says Nick's going to be involved in the trade market. Maybe like a little bit of involvement. I think that they're going to, listen to some stuff. They're going to probably trade Cam Reddish. Now, I don't think trading Cam Reddish makes you involved, right? It just means you made a move. But I think that they'll be involved in some stuff for sure. Michael wants to know, what can the Clippers give up that's valuable for Fred VanVleet? Terrence Mann is a very valuable young player. I think the Clippers don't want to give him up, but I think ultimately they would have to. And I think the Raptors would love to have Terrence Mann. And they also have a 2029 first-round pick that they can now trade as well, similar to what we saw the Mavericks give up yesterday for Kyrie Irving. It's going to be similar to that in terms of the package that they can offer, plus a collection of other players like Marcus Morris, Luke Kennard. Those are kind of the names to watch. Van Lee says the ratings for this year's playoffs will be off the chains. TV companies are smiling. Yes, they will be for sure, because there's going to be a lot of good competitive series, especially round one is going to be nuts in the Western Conference, in my opinion. Brian K says Kennard has been getting DNP CDs. He's not that good. Luke Kennard is good. I think we've had this discussion before. Getting DNP CDs, does that mean you're not good? It probably means that they have a trade in the works for you. So because of that, they don't want you to get injured playing in a game 1 or 2 or 3 days before the trade deadline. So getting DNP CDs at this time of the season does not mean you're not good. And if you look at his numbers, the last 3 seasons since going to the Clippers, this is Kennard's 3-point percentage. 44.6% from 3, 44.9% from 3, and this year 45.3% from 3. That would help a ton of teams. Van Lee wants to know, is it possible to win a chip with a backcourt that can score but can't defend, like the Cavs or Mavs? I think so. I do think that is possible. Now you need the right circumstances, right? But you could say that about a lot of different things, right? Winning a championship's hard. Now the thing about Cleveland and Dallas is their backcourts are so proficient offensively that they're going to at least be tough to stop as well. So you might be trading buckets, but to be honest, when you have the more skilled offensive players, that might be the way you want to look at it, is trading buckets might be positive for you. So that's kind of what I think. John, welcome to the stream. He says Kawhi wants Van Vliet to join the Clippers, who will be going back to the Raptors. Like I just talked about, probably Kennard, Terrence Mann. Those are 2 names to definitely watch in a deal, plus that 2029 first-round pick. Yes, Kyrie to the Mavericks. That happened yesterday. As you can see on the ticker, Mavericks receive Kyrie Irving, Markieff Morris. Brooklyn Nets receive forward Dorian Finney-Smith, one of my favorite players, guard Spencer Dinwiddie as well, and a 2029 first-round pick, plus 2 second-round picks. So definitely interesting for sure. That trade just kind of came together out of nowhere. Shout out to Meep. Let's get some Meep hype in the chat here too. I'm going to go ahead and get this up on the stream. Let's see, where are we at? Let's get some Meep hype. Everyone comment Meep, M-E-E-P. Everyone comment it right now. Let's get some Meep hype in the chat. I want to see all of those Meep comments coming through. Josh says, I missed the live stream, my man. Do my Oklahoma City Thunder have something brewing? Josh, I'm sorry, I don't want to disappoint you here, but I think Oklahoma City is going to be pretty quiet this trade deadline. Now, there's always room that something is going to, come around. And there could be a move, right, that I don't foresee. There always can be. But I just don't think Oklahoma City feels a lot of pressure right now. They've been good. SGA is a star. Giddey's been playing really, really well this year. I know that they love J-Dub from Santa Clara. They feel like they had a huge steal in the draft with him. And I know that they're just banking on Chet coming back next year and being awesome. And I think they're going to be. I really think they're going to be pretty nice. Michael Furlano says Fred VanVleet for Jalen Suggs and Jonathan Isaac is very intriguing. That's not a terrible option, to be honest, for Toronto, and I don't even think it's terrible either for Orlando. It's kind of a good framework. Daniela says another player that's interesting is Bojan Bogdanovic. Yeah, he could help the Mavericks for sure, but not something I see happening. John Suarez says, who is better, Jonathan Isaac or Mo Bamba? In my opinion, Isaac's better, but we'll have to see him play and be healthy for a while to fully know that. But like Don't Know says, a fully recovered Isaac is miles away from Bamba. That's what I fully believe. Are you Matt says, do you believe that anybody can win in a playoff series like the Magic beat Celtics in a Game 7 series? No, I don't. 7 games, the playoffs are just a different beast. The game slows down. Teams that aren't as proficient offensively in the half court tend to struggle a little bit more. If you look at Toronto the last couple of years, I think that's a really great example of a team that is talented, but are they talented enough? And that's why I think that Toronto should take a seller position this year, move off some of those guys. I think it'd be really good for them long term, honestly, to do that. Mr. Rudy Poo says, what can Philly do? I heard Vando from the Jazz may be an option. He's not a bad option. That's where Thibault makes some sense in terms of the money matching those two guys. Could also be a 3-team deal where Rashawn Holmes or sorry, not Rashawn Holmes. I was reading the next comment. Where Bones Highland were to maybe go to Utah, and then potentially we see Thibault go to Denver. That could be an option as well. John says, how about Rashawn Holmes of the Sacramento Kings? Is he a starting 5 player for the Raps? No, I don't think he's a starting level player for the Toronto Raptors. I think that if they're going to explore that Koloko gives you a decent amount of what Rashawn Holmes already does anyway. I would rather just focus on the development of Koloko at this point. Jay wants to know, where do you think Bay on the Pistons will get traded, or if Bojan gets dealt? Bojan's not going to be traded. I think the Pistons keep him this year. I think they really like him. By the way, for Oklahoma City, I just want to go back to this real quick. Since the start of the new year, the Thunder are first in offensive rating. They're first in net rating. They're first in points per game. They're first in three-point percentage, and they have the 6th best record in that time. So they've been playing really good basketball. So I just want to, touch on that for Oklahoma City's perspective. And then for Sadiq Bay, I think, Dallas is an option, but I feel like a lot of teams could be interested in Sadiq Bay that I'm just not aware of at this moment. Runner says, what move should 76ers make after yesterday's loss? I don't think that you worry about one loss if you're Philly. I think, and I didn't get to watch their game yesterday because I was at an actual NBA game in person. So I need to do a little bit of catching up tonight, reviewing some of the games that happened. But when it comes to the 76ers, I don't think that they should make any moves as of right now. I think Thibault's really the only thing that they should explore dealing and seeing what you can get. Jose Calderon says, Claxton, Thomas, Harris, 3 firsts for Siakam. I don't know. If I'm Brooklyn, I'm like, okay, we get Siakam, we're better offensively, but then defensively, we kind of trade our best defensive player. I understand the idea. It's not terrible, but I think it's a little far-fetched this year. John Suarez says, Pirtle to the Raps as a starting 5 player. Who is the best point guard available to the Raptors for a Fred VanVleet replacement? Ultimately, I think if the Raptors trade VanVleet, they're not really looking for a long-term backup point guard. The guy that they would likely have in a deal play point guard for them would be Terrence Mann. He's been playing a little bit of point guard this year for the LA Clippers. Now he's not a true point guard. He's not going to be your long-term one, but I think that's who they'd have fill in as their point guard this season. And Pirtle, he would be a starting 5-level player, yes. Jason says these next 2 years for Clips are critical. They really going to go for it at the trade deadline? I think they have to. I think the Clippers are under a ton of pressure to win. They just haven't yet. At the highest level, they haven't made the finals. They haven't won the finals. With all that said, and the SGA trade is tough, right? Because I loved SGA coming out of Kentucky. I did. I loved him after his first year with the Clippers. I probably watched 40 or 50 games his rookie season of him. And in the playoffs too, that's when they played the 1 seed Warriors, and Shea had some awesome moments, including with Landry Shamet, where they had that 31-point comeback. It was tough for me to see them trade him, but I understood it from the perspective of, okay, you're getting Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. It's like something you just have to do. But unfortunately, things I don't think have panned out as well, especially with Shea's development. He's just gotten to be an incredible player. And probably better than Paul George. I don't think that's really a question. Mr. Rudy Poo says nothing's an overpay after the Rudy Gobert trade. Fair. That is fair. Dwayne Green says not trying to get rid of Claxton unless the superstar coming back. That's how I feel as well. Runner Flash says I feel like the Kyrie trade lowered the market tremendously after they offered so little. I actually feel like they give up a lot for Kyrie Irving, just given the fact that you look at the situation. He's got 3 months left on his contract. Kind of risky. Let's get into our next comment now. Sky Davis says, what's up, Sheldon? Appreciate the stream. Thank you so much, Sky. Thank you for being here. If you guys are enjoying the stream, please consider leaving a like on it. And then also subscribe to the channel for more. I am going to actually switch the comment section into subscriber only mode. Now you can, as soon as you hit the subscribe button, you're able to comment right away. So just hit that subscribe button. I want to keep getting to all of your guys' comments. But then this way I can focus on some of the subs. Comments is completely free to subscribe. So just please do it. I appreciate it. Door Hours 24/7 says he answering all y'all questions. Hit the like button. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate you. I'll be doing it all day long here up until about Right now it's 11 a.m. Central Time. I'll probably be live for another 3 hours at least. I've already been live for an hour and 10 minutes, and it feels like probably like 20 minutes in my head because I have so much fun talking about the NBA. I have so much fun answering these questions. And the one of my favorite things is you guys, prompt me with ideas and things I haven't thought about, because I spend, to be honest, I spend all day doing stuff with basketball. I'm a basketball coach. I also work closely with an NBA team. So everything I do is about basketball. YouTube here is about basketball for me. So all day long, all I think about is basketball. But, there's just opportunities where you don't think about a certain, possibility. And it's really fun to hear your guys' perspective. Of course, you guys have other sources too that you hear information from. So I love hearing your guys' thoughts as well, which is going to prompt me into my next thing here. I would love for you guys to actually tweet your trade ideas at me, or, DM me on Twitter. We do have the link in the description for our Twitter. I'm going to actually go ahead and put that in the comment section right now too, just so that you guys can easily access it. Go ahead, go tweet at us or go DM us on there, and I'll be responding to some of those live on the stream as well today. So if you want to be featured, go ahead and get on that, and we'll definitely talk about some of your guys' potential trades that you could see going down. Jason Kimball says, how often do your predictions come true? I'm guessing as often as most. Yeah, actually pretty frequently. I think one of my favorite stretches was last year in the postseason. I think perfectly predicted the second round of the playoffs, other than I predicted Suns over Mavs in 7, and I'm a Mavs fan. I just thought the Suns were going to be a tough challenge for us. Of course, Luka Doncic came through in that game 7, and we obliterated them. But I had the entire second round right in terms of who won the series, how many games. So that was one of my favorite stretches there. I ended up looking smarter than I am, which is always fun to do. John says, what are the packages offered by Pels and Grizzlies for OG? What package suits the Raptors the best? And this is a good question, John. I think the packages from them are very interesting because they both have young players they could offer. To be honest, this is one of those where I could see 2 first-round picks, or maybe like one valuable first-round pick. So from the Pelicans' perspective, that would be the Lakers' first this year that they could offer away. And then you try and match the money, right? So that Lakers' first is a big component of that Pelicans offer. And then for the Grizzlies, probably 2 of their own first-round picks, and then some of the young pieces. Now, I don't think that either of those teams necessarily need to panic and make that trade, but I do think it's a possibility. And like this comment section, this comment here says, OG to the Pelicans for Trey Murphy, Dyson Daniels, and picks. Likely just the Lakers pick. That's kind of the framework of a deal that I could see potentially going down. And like Michael says, I like that deal for OG. I think it's pretty good for both sides. Dwayne says, Claxton leads the league in blocks, defensive rating, and field goal percentage, not to mention he can guard all 5 positions. That's very valuable. Yeah, I love Nick Claxton. Actually, this past offseason, I made a video talking about guys who I thought would be breakout candidates, and Nick Claxton was near the top of my list. I loved Nick Claxton's game. I know last year he got flamed for missing 10 free throws in a row in the playoffs. Whatever. I really like Nick Claxton. The free throws are still an issue, but I think he's valuable for sure. JC the Visualizer says, what about the Hornets? I think the Hornets will sniff around some trades of Terry Rozier. I think they're going to try and shop Rozier. I think they'll try and trade Gordon Hayward, although I don't think that's likely. But that's what they're ultimately going to look to do. Troy Dilworth says consolidating assets should be the priority for Houston. 7 first-round picks the past 2 years, plus KJ Martin and Jayshawn Tate. Too many mouths to feed, not enough minutes. 2 first-round picks next year too. Keep Kenyon Martin Jr. though. Yeah, I think that's one of those issues you find with teams that have all these picks is like, yes, you take stabs, but how do you really focus on development for each and every one of them? It's kind of tough. There's a lot of stuff going on with that. Unlimited Range wants to know who's most likely to be traded, Jay Crowder or Jakob Poeltl. Jay Crowder is significantly more likely, in my opinion, just given the fact that the Suns need to trade him. Otherwise, they get nothing for him. Brendan says, my Kings have had some rough games without De'Aaron. I don't think they'll do anything dumb, but if they do, what's the most knee-jerk Kings move they would make? Brendan, I think it's a new Sacramento Kings regime. I think things are different. I don't think they're going to make a bad knee-jerk move. Now, I think the one scary thing would be like and not scary terrible, but like scary of, oh, I don't know how to feel about this for a second, would be as if they involved Keegan Murray in a trade for OG Anunoby. That's the one thing that I'm like, does that happen? Is that possible that they talk about it? I know the Kings had interest in OG Anunoby last during the offseason, during the NBA draft. Of course, nothing came to fruition. There was no agreement to be had there. But I think that's the one knee-jerk thing that I would be like maybe watching for, but I'm not exactly sure. Seth Williamson says, what do the Miami Heat do? Who do they get? I think the Miami Heat are going to shop around Duncan Robinson, Kyle Lowry. It's just hard to right now exactly pinpoint who they're going to acquire. I think that with Miami, I think we need to wait a little bit and get some better reporting on their current situation. I thought that they would have been a little bit more interested in Kyrie Irving. It seems like they did not really pursue that very strongly, which surprised me. So we'll see. Mary Ortiz says, do you think Jalen Suggs has upside to be an elite defender? I really do believe in him. There's been ups and downs, but he's shown potential in offense. Don't give up on Jalen. I think Suggs has a lot of upside. So I watched Suggs very closely in high school. And, of course, in Gonzaga, he was kind of breaking the internet. But I didn't love him as much as everybody else comparatively in the draft. A lot of people really thought he was like a winning player, a franchise-changing player. I never saw that. But I do think he's a nice defensive playmaker. He's smart. I think he understands the game. Offensively, his skill set is a little limited. He's a very good slasher, but the issue is his jump shot is just not reliable in any component right now in any way. And he's a good playmaker. He's not a great playmaker. So I think he has room to develop yet. I think he needs to continue growing. I think he needs to shoot 1,000 shots a day over the summer. He needs to get better as a shooter. That's probably the biggest issue with him right now. Is just with where the NBA is at. It's hard to play a big lineup and have a guard who can't space the floor for you. That's really the one difficult situation I see. Anthony Morales says, no problem, bro. Just hit the thumbs up for you. Nice job. Thank you so much, Anthony. Appreciate that. King says, do you think the Nets will still be active? Yes. There was a report that they would maybe look to shop around Spencer Dinwiddie. I'm not exactly certain that that's going to happen, but I think they'll still sniff around. They have multiple first-round picks they can trade again after their moves of James Harden and Kyrie Irving. So we'll see what they end up actually doing in a couple days. Chasing Precept says, do the Pelicans make any moves? I think they'll look around OG Anunoby. I think he's the player to watch for them ultimately. We're starting to get some of that me pipe. Thank you guys all for hitting up some of that me pipe in the chat. Appreciate each and every one of you guys for that. Joseph Gomez says, are Rockets going to be active? I think they'll be monitoring the trade block. I think they'll be monitoring the trade market, but ultimately the only thing I really for sure see possibly happening is trading Eric Gordon for a couple second-round picks. NBA Guru says, what about Golden State? Golden State's always one of the hardest teams to project. Typically, they don't make trades at the deadline. Bob Myers does not operate in that way. One of the few examples where he did was Andrew Wiggins for D'Angelo Russell when they flipped those two guys. Now, this year's a little bit different, right? Steph just goes down with an injury. That's a big question mark currently as I speak. And then also the fact that they're just not nearly as dominant as they've been over the last decade for the most part. So, I think it's an option that they could go out there and pursue something. Some people have floated a James Wiseman for Jakob Poeltl trade. I don't love that for Golden State. I really don't. I don't think that they need to panic on the center. And if anything, I think they just need to add another wing. So we'll see what they do. Jay Anderson says, do you think the Lakers could pursue DeMar DeRozan? Why not trade those two first for a great wing that can play great defense? I think he would help them for sure. They should have, obviously, back when they traded for Russell Westbrook, they should have clearly and obviously signed DeMar DeRozan instead. Would have been way better for them. But Jay Anderson wants to know, should Golden State trade for a great defender or a great center or both? I think the defender is more important for them. The big difference from what Golden State has been a few years ago and even last year to what they've been this year is a team that could get stops to now a team that doesn't get stops. And once they start getting some more stops, it's going to be a world of difference, and their team's going to start winning a lot of games. Sage says, do you think the Pels should make a move or just keep the pick swap with the Lakers? This is a great question. So there's two ways to think about this. Right now with where they sit, the Pelicans would be in the play-in tournament again themselves. So with the Lakers, I believe, let me go check the standings again just real quick. Actually, the Lakers would not be. Yeah, okay, that doesn't. Yeah, the Lakers are not in the play-in. They're not actually even that close. They're 2 games out of the play-in right now. But the thing is, since it's a swap option, if you miss the playoffs and the Lakers miss the playoffs, you at least have 2 different ways of getting the first overall pick or moving up into the top 4. If you trade away that Lakers pick, you're kind of stuck to the point where you don't have that first anymore. So it's kind of tough. I would be hesitant, maybe for Anunoby. Maybe. Banjito wants to know, does Robert Covington move the needle for the Miami Heat? No, Robert Covington does not move the needle for anybody anymore at this point of the season. Ninja Style says, do you think Dallas uses Christian Wood as a trade chip to get a wing defender or upgrade at the 5? Possibly. I think it's very possible. Christian Wood is not untouchable. From all of my intel, my understanding with the situation going on in Dallas, Christian Wood is available. He is just as available as Spencer Dinwiddie and Dorian Finney-Smith were yesterday. I'll put it that way. Richard says Nets get Sabonis. Sabonis is not going anywhere. They love him in Sacramento. Jason Kimball says, do you consider Mavs Clips legit rivalry? No. For them to be a rivalry, the Mavericks would have to win every once in a while. And as you can tell, I'm a Mavericks fan. So it's okay that I say this. But no, the Clippers own us. Kawhi Leonard, I still respect him as in my opinion, when he's fully healthy, fully ready to go, arguably the best player any given night in the NBA. He is incredible defensively when he's still locked in and you need him for a key possession. He will sit down in the stands. He will maneuver through a screen. He will poke a ball loose, or he'll contest a shot, and you're just like, what are we supposed to do? I think the best example of this, you go back to Game 7 of the playoffs, the second time when Kristaps Porzingis was healthy, the second time that the second time that the Clippers faced the Mavericks in the first round, and we should have won that series, and then they put Kawhi Leonard and Luka Doncic in the fourth quarter of Game 7, and we just could not score. And I'll never forget that. Kawhi Leonard is so dominant. I don't think he gets enough credit for how good of an individual player he is. Let's go ahead and go back over to the Twitter now. Migs here, thank you for sending us a tweet. Let's look at this one. An Orlando Magic Dallas Mavericks trade. And one that I'm not a fan of, to be honest. Christian Wood in a first-round pick in 2025 for Terrence Ross, Chuma Okeke, and RJ Hampton. To me, the Mavericks say no there. I don't think that's a deal that would get done, unfortunately, but I understand the idea. Troy Dilworth here, thank you for tweeting at us as well, says, after passing on first-round picks for Gordon last year, his value has plummeted. I had hoped if we can get a first-round pick. What are your thoughts on Gordon for Milton? Rockets desperately need a point guard. Milton, a great shooter, and did well with this year when Harden and Maxey were hurt. Milton, not a terrible option for Gordon. And I could see the Rockets with Daryl Morey expressing some interest in EG. Again, the Philadelphia Rockets in full effect. I definitely could see that as a potential outcome, Troy. I don't think that's a bad idea at all, actually. But like you said here, his value's plummeted. I don't see you getting first. So I think Milton's probably kind of in that area of like, hey, this is the best player available for you. Our Pit Dog, thank you so much for hitting that follow. Really appreciate you. Make sure you guys go give us a follow on Twitter. Again, the link is in the description for that. I will also post it as a comment here now, just so you guys can all go give us a follow on there. Please shoot your trade ideas to us as well. Here we have a comment from Zach, who's a Celtics fan. He says, with Hauser being disappointing after his hot start to the year, what backup wings could you see the Celtics realistically acquiring? Love the streams, man. Thank you, Zach. Love having you in here as well. Really appreciate you. And let's look at some available wings. One that makes sense coming from Utah would be Malik Beasley for the Boston Celtics. He leads all bench players in three-pointers made this season. As a non-starter, he's been perfect for the Utah Jazz. In a role now, the Jazz are 500 at the time I'm currently speaking. They're 6-4 in their last 10. But with where they're currently sitting, they're 2 games ahead of being 13th in the West. If Danny Ainge is smart, which I think he is, and I think he's going to look into doing this, first of all, he'd be very willing to discuss trades with the Boston Celtics. Danny Ainge would be. And secondly, Maybe they'd even be able to get Kelly Olynyk in a deal as well. So I think that it's very likely that we see the Celtics and Jazz talk trade. And I think it's very possible that we would see one of those Jazz players, at least one of them, end up playing for the Celtics. I think Malik Beasley is the one guy I really like in that situation, because he kind of gives you some of that shooting that Hauser is intended to give you, but he's a little bit more physical, a little bit better defensively as well. Anthony Morales says Kings lost 2 games without Fox. What are they missing? They're missing Fox. That's the situation right now. I wouldn't worry too much about the Kings. You guys have been really good this year. I know they're 5-5 in their last 10, but with where you currently sit, you're a game ahead of the Clippers. It would be nice to win a couple here, try and push that lead out a little bit further. But ultimately, you guys are still in a pretty good spot. Ahmad says, do you think my Blazers could trade Simons and go all in on Dame? I don't think they will. If I was running the Blazers, I would. I'm not the biggest Anthony Simons fan. I think he's a good player. Last year, I suggested that he should come off the bench so that they can prioritize defense. They didn't listen to me. The Blazers are a bad defensive team again. It is what it is, right? Jason says, Lakers got a ring with Bron and AD. Do you think it would be wise to trade away their aging stars and retool? No, I don't think so. Brendan, thank you for following on Twitter. Really appreciate you, Brendan VA. Appreciate you for hitting that follow button. No, I don't think the Lakers should trade their 2 best players away. Here's a report from NBA Central. Miami Heat dangling trade package of Duncan Robinson, Dwayne Dedmon, and a first-round pick to see what they could get for that. Like I said, I knew that there was going to have to be an asset attached to Duncan Robinson's contract. If I'm a team, I think Dallas should look around that and see can you get Duncan Robinson and Dwayne Dedmon and a first-round pick for Tim Hardaway Jr. That's a trade I really like. I'm actually going to make a banner of that now. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Mavs receive 2023 first. Duncan Robinson, Dwayne Dedmon. Heat receive Tim Hardaway Jr. Let me know what you guys think of this trade idea right here. Mavericks receive 2023 first, Duncan Robinson and Dwayne Dedmon from the Miami Heat, and the Heat in turn receive Tim Hardaway Jr. Let me know in the comment section what you think of that trade. Van Lee says Stephen A. Smith just said Durant is on the verge of leaving. Durant for Jaylen Brown, a possibility. No, I don't think Stephen A. Smith really knows what he's talking about, to be honest. Miles, welcome to the stream. He says Pirtle as an option for the Mavericks. Jonah Ramirez says Mavs need to make another move. The West is open. First for Bojan or Wood, and Tim for first, and Turner and Hield and McConnell. I would love McConnell. I think he would be really, really good with the Dallas Mavericks and would definitely be a good upgrade for them. C Squared says, as a Spurs fan, I think the Spurs are going to keep Jakob unless they get a great deal. He fits our core well, and if we were to get Scoot, then he would be fantastic for us. I agree. I think likely the Spurs could look to keep him. They could also renegotiate his contract this year using their cap space. Don't Know says, who do you think is the best second player this season, stats-wise and team impact-wise? If you're talking about like second best player on a team, I think that's the way I'm interpreting what you mean here. I would say Jaylen Brown. Just the Celtics are the best team in the East, arguably the best team in the NBA. I think that realistically, that's the way that you have to really look at that. Marco, thanks for following. Thanks for following as well on Twitter. And Gohan Bashenbach, thank you so much as well. We actually have another trade to look at here from our viewers. So Marco here tweets, at Utility Sports, if Hawks wanted first-round pick, I asked back about giving 2023 second-round pick in return. So here's the offer that he has. We are looking at Davis Bertans and Tim Hardaway Jr. for John Collins, Onyeka Okongwu, and Frank Kaminsky. To be honest, I do think that is likely not going to happen, just because I think they would probably want 2 first-round picks, one for John Collins, one for Onyeka Okongwu. But I think it's possible that the Mavs could sniff around either of those players. I do think that's not a complete long shot for sure. But I do think that there's going to have to be a little bit of work done from Dallas to get involved in that. Sporting Game says, please keep Christian Wood. Don't trade to the Clippers except if you get Covington or Zubats in return. Not very many Mavs fans I know that want Zubats. I do not want Zubats myself. So I'm hoping that we do not trade Christian Wood for Covington or Zubats. Answered that one there. Let's go to the next one. What is your prediction about realistic trade without Christian Wood involved? And suddenly Prince Frank is questionable. Is it Knicks deal? Ntilikina is questionable for tonight with a non-COVID illness. Around the trade deadline, you always have to watch for stuff like that. Is the guy just getting scratched so that he can be traded? It's possible. It is possible that Ntilikina could be involved in a deal. A realistic trade not involving Seawood. Again, I would have to say it's the one that I kind of just mocked up with the situation going on there. Ryan, welcome to the stream. He says, hope this 5 helps you feel better about Kyrie. Ryan, thank you so much. Ryan's been watching our content here for a long time now. I believe, last year we had a lot of fun as well with the trade deadline and some NBA draft stuff. So, Ryan, thank you for the 5. Really appreciate it. The donations really help keep the stream up and going long term. And it gives me, it helps just support the channel in a really helpful way. So I really appreciate that. Key Kings, welcome to the stream. He says, how's it going, Utility? It's going great. Feeling a lot better today than I did yesterday with the Kyrie news. And Ryan says, my bro, what's good? Glad to have you in here again, Ryan. Let's keep going through some of these comments. Let's keep answering your guys' question about other things going on in the league. Michael says, looks like KD could potentially be on the move to Boston for a Jaylen Brown package. I want to know where the reporting's coming from that. I have not seen that myself at this point, but it's possible that I'm just missing some information that's trying to come through. We'll see exactly what that ends up looking like. Gohan Box says, what do the Orlando Magic do via trades before the deadline? I think that they'll see what they can get for Gary Harris. I think that's a potential option for sure. I think that they'll hunt a Mo Bamba trade. And I think that they want to add some shooting. Shooting would be really, really beneficial for that team. Maybe we could see a Nets Magic trade where the Magic bring back Joe Harris, see if they can get some draft assets as well, and maybe send out a guy like Mo Bamba. Bryson Hernandez says, as a Mavs fan, how do you think Brooklyn got significantly better? I love Dorian Finney-Smith and will greatly miss him in Dallas, but he is not a revolutionary addition for them. Brian, this is a great question. I also saw your comment yesterday as well on the channel. I didn't get a chance to respond to it quite yet. I will after the stream today and after I'm done coaching later on. But the reason why the Nets got better, this is all about matchups. And last year we saw the Nets were not equipped to defend a Jaylen Brown and a Jason Tatum in the playoffs. They were not equipped to defend Giannis Antetokounmpo. I know Dorian is not a revolutionary player, but he is an incredible defender, especially at the point of attack. He's going to draw the assignment of a Jason Tatum. He's going to draw the assignment of a Jaylen Brown when Tatum's not in the game. He's going to be the guy that they likely would put on Giannis. Him and Ben Simmons at certain junctures of the game will share those assignments. And it's really good for them to finally have not one, but 2, maybe 3 options, if you include Royce O'Neal, to throw at some of these players. So it's definitely interesting. I think Dorian really does help them a lot, though. I think that Dorian is kind of a perfect fit into what they needed to add to win in the postseason. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to win. Possible. It's possible they win. Now, Boston's still really good. Milwaukee's really good. They could still lose, but it's possible for sure. Are you mad? Says Celtics in a 3-peat if they get Kevin Durant. I keep seeing a lot of these rumors, but I don't know where people are getting. I don't know. I don't understand where people are getting some of this Kevin Durant information. If you guys can tell me exactly where, I would love to see it. Felix wants to know, what would you give up for Josh Hart? I'd give up a second-round pick or 2. He's on an expiring deal, basically. He actually has a player option, but if he opts in, it becomes non-guaranteed. It's a very unique contract. We typically don't see any contracts like that. So because of that, he'll opt out, go into free agency. So you would have to look at him as a rental trading for him. So second-round pick or 2. Van Lee says, just Tim Hardaway back. Miami loses a big, and does the money even match in that trade? Yes, it does. I'm pretty certain. You might have to throw in like Ntilikina or something to get the money to work. The reason with that deal is if you think about it this way, Duncan Robinson is looked at as a big time negative value contract. Tim Hardaway Jr. would play for Miami. Do we really see Miami playing Dwayne Dedmon more than like 8 minutes in a playoff game? And Duncan Robinson got a bunch of DNP CDs last postseason. So you turn two guys who probably aren't in your rotation, and one of them's a bad contract that the Heat don't want. It's kind of the framework of a deal in my opinion. Here, Ty says Nets trade for Bradley Beal. I would not trade for Bradley Beal. Holy cow! Someone go look at that contract. Actually, let's. I'm gonna read you the money per year, just because I want you guys to see what this looks like. Next year, Bradley Beal will make $46.7 million. By the way, he has a no trade clause. The year after that, he makes over $50 million. The year after that, $53.7 million. And the final year of that deal, he makes $57.12 million. And by the way, it's a player option. I wonder if he's going to opt into that when he's 30-something years old. No, he is. Bradley Beal is not a player you want to trade for right now. I think he's not a good player. I understand the question. I understand. Okay. Let me rephrase that quick. That's going to get clipped and people are going to misunderstand. He's a great player, but that contract is ridiculous. So that's what I think. Miles says, what teams do you think have the best young cores that the teams would be crazy to mess with? I think Oklahoma City has a really great young core. I think Cleveland has a really great young core. Those two teams I don't think are going to screw anything up this deadline. Those are really the two teams that I would highlight. And you want to know why I don't like Zubats? Again, just some of the defensive stuff. Like, you go back and watch the bubble series against the Nuggets. For the Clippers, Zubats just couldn't hang. He just can't. So, like, what's the point of trading for another center who can't stay on the floor? I don't think it makes sense. And I don't think the Clippers are trading him anyway, so it's not going to happen. Jonah says, who's a good young big to trade for, like Cavs did for a first for Allen a couple of years ago? There's not a lot of guys like that that are good options, to be honest. There's players out there that do make some sense. But I mean, maybe an Onyeka Okongwu. I really like Jarrett Allen, though, when he became available for Cleveland. I said in my reaction to that trade that the Rockets were really, really foolish for not getting Jarrett Allen in that trade. I feel like I've been vindicated with that reaction, that response. They end up getting one extra first-round pick. I'd rather just have Jarrett Allen. And obviously Cleveland would as well. They were smart in jumping into that deal. I think Onyeka Okongwu would maybe be the guy this year that could maybe be available. Uli says Woodford, Plumlee, and PJ Washington. I don't love it for the Mavs. I just don't. It's funny. Perk says, what you mean Kyrie to the Mavs is good? Yeah, what if he's wearing a Lakers jersey next year, though? Then how good are we feeling about it? I don't know. The Lore Baby says, do you see Oklahoma City making any trades? If so, who do you see them going for? I don't really see Oklahoma City being active, to be honest. Don't want to, disappoint you. And yeah, I know OKC is usually sneaky at the deadline. I know. But this year's just different. I feel like they have their core, and I think they're right. They've got their players. Brian K says, Jaylen Brown is going nowhere. That's cap. That's what I thought, too. I didn't think that was going to happen. Important Game says KD package for Jaylen Brown is from Stephen A. Smith. Oh, well, I'm not going to believe that. Stephen A. Smith is just making stuff up on TV. He's doing all the stuff that I'm very careful to not do. Like, when I answer these questions, like, I'm talking about a lot of different players, a lot of different teams. I'm not just making stuff up and saying, oh my gosh, this is going to happen, or reportedly this was I'm telling you, Stephen A. Smith doesn't have these sources that are telling him. No, he does not. I promise you, he doesn't. And the reason I know that is no Celtics employee right now would be saying, oh my gosh, we're trading Jaylen Brown for Kevin Durant. You know how easy it is to lose your job doing something stupid like that, where you upset an entire team's culture because you're leaking bad trade information? I mean, it's just not true. Don't listen to Stephen A. Smith. He doesn't know what he's saying. And I guarantee you, he's going to have all this information. He's going to be viral on Twitter right now. He's going to say all this stuff. And guess what? We're going to get past the trade deadline. Jaylen Brown's going to be a Celtic. I promise you. Don't know, says Duncan Robinson and Heat 2027 first-round pick, top 10 protected for Bamba. Hampton, Bucks 2026 second-round pick. Yeah, I don't hate it, I guess. It's not terrible. We'll see. I'm not sure. I don't think that'll be necessarily the Heat's priority, but it could be. Miles says, 2 years from now, do you think the Spurs or Mavs have a better team? 2 years from now, it'll still be the Mavs. 3 years from now, it'll probably be the Spurs because Luka Doncic will have just been traded, unfortunately. Ryan says, does KD really improve the Celtics over Jaylen Brown? For this year, yes. And for next year, probably yes. But if you're thinking 3-4 years from now, definitely no. But that's the situation going on. Perk says, OMG, Jokic to the Mavs. You almost made me believe it for a second. That's not even one where I'm going to look down at my phone. I'm not even gonna buy into that for half a second. Ninja says, you think the Kings should go after players like Naz Reid, Drummond, Plumlee, Boucher, or Achua as a backup big for Sabonis? We need another backup because Shemezi Metu isn't it. No, I think the postseason, you just don't need to so heavily try and find a backup for your best player. I just think that's a really hard way to team build. And because of that, I don't know. I just don't think that needs to be a priority. Daniel says Raptors either need to tank or make big moves before the trade deadline. I think that they're going to sell a little bit. And I see your desperation. I understand it. Ryan says KD is too old and injury prone to trade Jaylen Brown for. That would be a terrible move. I mean, if the Celtics win a title, it's not a terrible move. Like, you could argue that last year, if the Celtics had Kevin Durant in the finals, that they maybe win the finals, right? So, I don't know. It depends on what would happen. It would be results-based. So, it's hard to kind of speculate one way or another. Terry Agent says, you think Rockets can make a run at Kevin Durant with all those Nets picks? Grab Harden in the offseason. Harden and Kevin Durant were so good together the second time that you want to do it a third time. I just don't fully understand. 1 second here. All right, sorry about that. Had a little bit of an issue with my my camera here. Technical difficulty. We're making it work though. We're trying to, at least. This is frustrating me. Give me 30 more seconds, then we'll be right back. All right, I think we should be all set now. Thank you for your patience on that. I had a little bit of technical difficulties there, but we made it work. We definitely made it work. Uli said, Wood, Hardaway, Frank Ntilikina 2027 first for Rozier, Plumlee, PJ Washington. Again, I don't really love that. And Brendan's, you guys are starting to realize what I'm saying about Beal. The contract is just not good. It's just very, very expensive. The only one that really has an argument right now is Ben Simmons, just because Simmons isn't playing good, but Beal's is much more expensive even. So I'd rather have Beal's contract than Simmons. I think so. But if Simmons gets back healthier, I know he's not been playing well this year, but part of that is he's coming off of back surgery, so it's a little bit different. Mo Bamba, don't give up a first for him. That's what I think too. It would just be really tough to give up a first-round pick for Mo Bamba. I'm not a fan of that. Van Lee says, bro, is Simmons a 4, a backup 5, or a point guard that can't shoot at this stage of his career? I think the easiest way to answer that is sell 3. I think that one of the issues in the NBA is like everybody's very results based, like with the way that, oh, well, look, we didn't win this or this happened and we didn't do whatever. Like sometimes you just have to like be creative, come up with ideas to make players work. Like if I was coaching Simmons, I would hope that when he grabs a rebound, he pushes in transition, kind of plays like a transition point guard. And when he doesn't have the ball on offense, he's looking to set some, back screens. He could be a really good option in a flex offense, which I know, sounds like I'm from the 1980s now saying something like that, or mid 2000s. That's kind of the offense that was running high school basketball and even college basketball to a certain extent a little bit before that. I mean, if you use him creatively, he can be really good. Like, look at Draymond. Again, Draymond's not been a scoring threat for quite some time now, and he's still successful, and he's still a very good NBA player. You just need the right scheme around him. That's one thing I'll say about Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr is very smart in terms of how he utilizes his players, and he's found a lot of success by being creative, by running different sets. You think about his post split, think about the dribble, handoff, grenade type actions that Golden State utilizes Draymond in. He'd be awesome, but I don't know. I think that Simmons is a little bit of everything, which is what makes him an intriguing player and somebody who, to be honest, some teams I still think that they should look around Simmons and see what they if they could get Simmons for really, really cheap right now. Like if you're Houston right now and you don't really have anyone to pay anyway, and you're just planning on going into free agency with cap space, or like I know that there's the Harden rumors, like whatever. If you get Harden, then sure, obviously that's better for you, but I'm not sure the legitimacy of that. Like, if you're a team with cap space, and why would you not sniff around Simmons? Like Utah right now, with Markkanen and Kessler, like Simmons would be kind of fun, right? You take a little bit of time, wait for him. If you can get him for really cheap right now, teams that have the money, his contract's not a huge negative if you're a rebuilding team, right? It's just the Nets are a contender, which is why it looks so bad, because it's really strapping them. But if you're a rebuilding team, why not explore Simmons and see what that could end up looking like for you? Ryan Hillier says, Bamba can't even get a solid 15 minutes for the Magic. Bro, there's got to be a reason for that. That's what I feel as well a little bit. And then here, Jay says, can you look at the trade I sent you on Twitter? Let's go ahead and add those to the stream now. I was planning on getting to them. So let's go ahead here. I'm on this one. This first one here is from Urs. He asked, do you think this is too much for OG Anunoby? So here, clearly, the Blazers would be receiving OG Anunoby, and the Raptors would receive Josh Hart, Greg Brown III, Keon Johnson, a 2028 first lottery protected, a 2025 first, and 3 second-round picks. To be honest, I think you actually probably get outbid if this is your offer. I think that the Pelicans have more convincing offers with guys like Dyson Daniels, who's on a rookie deal. You maybe would have to route Josh Hart to a third team here and see if you can get another asset in here for Toronto to take this, because I don't think Toronto would have a ton of interest in keeping Josh Hart themselves. So I think that this is an okay framework, but I think there's better offers out on the table from teams like the Pacers, from the Pelicans, from maybe even the Grizzlies, if the Grizzlies do decide they want to go in and buy now a direction, which they typically haven't. But we'll see exactly what happens with that. But that's an interesting trade. Let's go ahead and look at our next one now. This one here is from Jay. He says, at Utility Sports, is this a good trade? So let's go ahead and take a look at it. Oh boy. This is a funny one. This is perfectly on topic with Ben Simmons. There's a lot going on here. Holy cow. I'm trying to make this work. I think there's so many things in the trade that my computer is having issues with it. So are you trading all of these guys for just Simmons? Or what's the deal with Simmons? Yeah. So you're giving up Alec Burks, Bojan Bogdanovic, Nerlens Noel, Marvin Bagley, Killian Hayes, Sadiq Bay, Isaiah Stewart, and 4 firsts for Ben Simmons. Big J, or Jay Anderson, sorry. I like it. I feel like you have to be trolling, clearly, because Ben Simmons is probably not getting traded for all that. But we'll see. I don't think that a trade like that will happen. Miles, you don't seem to like Pirtle or Zubats for defensive reasons. How many centers in the league can do what you want a center to do? Bam, and who else? And this is a great question. This is a great question. If you watched my draft content last year, you would know that Jalen Duren is a guy who can do what I want him to do. The best defensive bigs in the league are the guys who are switchable but can still protect the rim. And those are very few and far between. Boston has 2 of them, which is why they're so good defensively. You think about a lot of the best defensive teams in the league, their big guy can switch and space and defend, but he can also protect the rim. The Warriors have 2 of those guys, Draymond Green, Kevon Looney. I think Looney's one of the most underrated players in the league. Again, Robert Williams, Al Horford. Phenomenal. Horford, I know he's a little bit older now. He's not going to, do as great of a job staying in front of people, but he still does a very good job for his age. He really does. And in his prime, he did that very, very well. Bam Adebayo does that. Jalen Duren does that. I think Isaiah Stewart has components of it, but he's not athletic enough to be a true rim protector. I think like Isaiah Stewart's kind of an ideal bench big where he gives you minutes off the bench and you're feeling really good about that. Looking at other bigs around the league, I mean, that's what you start to run into issues. PJ Tucker does that, actually, which is, kind of funny to talk about. Rudy Gobert is an ideal defensive big. He, everyone talks about, he's switching on the space. Rudy Gobert is a phenomenal perimeter defender as well when you're asking him to guard out there. Now, when it comes to, scheme and the way that the Wolves are using him this year, they're not really idealizing him as much as Quinn Snyder did. But I still think he's ideal for that. I think Walker Kessler, he's more of a drop big, but there's a huge difference between Kessler and Zubats because Kessler's bigger than Zubats, right? If you're going to be a drop coverage big, you have to be ginormous. Like I'm talking Rudy Gobert size or Walker Kessler size to be able to, get your hand in the passing lane while still being able to contest a runner or a floater, but get back to the rim and hopefully grab the rebound. He does that. Larry Nance does a very good job of this as well, although I don't love Larry Nance as much. He's having a very nice year secretly for the Pelicans. I think Chet Holmgren will be able to do this for Oklahoma City, which is part of the reason why I really liked him out of the draft. Giannis and Brook Lopez. Again, Brook Lopez is an example of a drop coverage big who's just huge. He's bigger than a Pirtle or a Zubats. And because of that, he is better at it. He's a great rim protector, but he's also okay on the perimeter. He's not as good as these other guys, but Giannis is phenomenal there. Embiid is a great defender. Now, he doesn't switch on the perimeter, but again, he's an incredible drop coverage guy. Claxton I like because he's switchable. Mobley is switchable. Allen switchable. There's some guys out here that I like. And to be honest, a lot of the good teams have a big who can do these things. So I don't think it's a coincidence that the most important position defensively is center and then 1 point of attack defender. Those are the 2 things you really need to have defensively to have a shot in the playoffs. And it's not a surprise that the teams that usually advance the furthest have those components for sure. Even Best says, for a sports fan, this show is great. I spent hours just listening to points and comments. Love the content. Keep it up. Well, I really appreciate that. I'm glad you guys have enjoyed. I've had a lot of fun streaming so far. We're just about 2 hours in, and it feels like I've been streaming for like maybe half an hour at most. I just have so much fun. The time flies by, and it's very enjoyable. So I'm glad you guys are enjoying this. Michael wants to know, why would Dallas trade Luka? Luka will demand a trade at some point, is my honest guess. So that's just kind of the reality. Michael also says, imagine the Raps get Murphy and Daniels for OG. The ball movement would be phenomenal. Yes, it would be very, very good, which I think would be a benefit for Toronto. Des says, I think Memphis should go for Durant or DeMar or the guy in Toronto, talking about probably OG Anunoby. Yeah, I think Memphis could push all in at some point here. Daniel says Raptors either need to tank. Yeah, we've talked about that. Here, Michael says Achua is not getting traded. I don't think so either. Van Lee says Dorian Finney-Smith was a huge loss. Fantastic player to have in your team, especially in the postseason. Yeah, he's just like a perfect 3-and-D wing to have. A lot of teams want a guy like him. The Mavs had a guy like him, and now they no longer do. Don't Know says, who do you think is the second-year player? Oh, second-year player who's balling well this season. Jalen Green's putting up numbers. I feel bad for him because the Rockets situation's a mess. Their head coach should be fired at some point. He will be fired, if I had to guess. But we'll see. We'll see what exactly happens. Everyone, thank you so much for hitting that follow button as well on Twitter. I think another second-year player that's playing well. Franz Wagner's fantastic. He's been very, very, very good this year. I would like. I just when I evaluated him as a draft prospect, I was just wrong on him. I thought, I don't know. I think I sold his athleticism short, and I thought part of his success in Michigan was kind of schemed. And now I've changed my mind on that after watching Jett Howard this year. So, I was just wrong on Franz. He's a very, very good player. Let's go ahead down to this one. Ninja says it's the final countdown. Yeah, sorry about that. Thank you guys so much for being patient through that. I had a little bit of difficulty with some of the things going on. So I appreciate you guys sticking through some of that. It does make me feel really happy. You guys are just willing to chill for a second, especially when I had a little bit of an issue with the stream for just a second. Anthony says, what's a realistic move the Kings can make for the trade deadline? I do have a Kings trade guide up on the channel, Anthony. I would recommend checking that out. But one that I really like for them is trading for Matisse Thybulle from the Philadelphia 76ers. Rashawn Holmes could go somewhere as well. Rashawn Holmes is a player I see them trading away in a deal, and Matisse Thybulle is a player I see them targeting in a separate deal. DM says, I think if they move forward, it'd be Okeke or Bol Bol. We'll see what happens with Bol Bol this year, but he's been playing really well. Ninja says, do you think Jonathan Isaac is a guy that could be traded? If so, who do you think would take a risk on him at his contract price? Ultimately, I don't think Isaac gets traded. I think teams will express some interest, but I think Orlando's going to be a little bit more patient. I think just given his injury and how freshly back he is, I think Orlando's priority is seeing what he looks like next to Banchero and Franz, and then going from there. Van Lee says, when you see a messy trade like this from Dallas, do billionaires like Cuban take their NBA teams as serious business vehicles, or is it kind of fun and games to them? No, I think here's the thing, Van. This is a great question. I really appreciate you asking this. Cuban has taken this very seriously, I think. In my opinion, I think he's looking at this as, the best way to try and win. But there's elements to this where, to be honest, do I think that Mark Cuban understands the rules when it comes to trading and, long-term team building in the NBA as well as I do? No, I don't think he does. I don't think that he understands some of these mechanisms and the way that the cap works and the way that, the Stepien rule impacts your team. I just don't think he understands some of the things that I do. And it makes it tough because you sit here and you watch your favorite team make a mistake. And now I'm just at a spot where I just have to hope they're good enough where they win and then Kyrie wants to stay. That's where I'm at right now with that trade. And it's possible, right? I still could be wrong because maybe they are good enough. Maybe Kyrie Irving and Doncic are just such a dominant duo that nobody can stop them, right? But I don't know. We'll see. It didn't work for KD and Kyrie, so I'm hoping maybe Doncic and Kyrie's a little bit different, but we'll see. Nick Dan says, Duncan Robinson and a first for Josh Richardson and McDermott. I don't think the Miami Heat do that. I would be surprised. D-Lore says OKC would be the best place for Simmons. He doesn't shoot and could attack the rim more. OKC has some shooters and they're great in transition. I actually like that quite a bit. He also gives you some physicality, some rebounding, which I think is important for that team. I don't know. It'd be fun to see that for sure. Vatican says Vasilij Micic to the Mavs. What are the chances and options to do so? Trading now to come over after EuroLeague season finishes. Top 5 EuroLeague player and top 2 Euro guard can be point guard, shooting guard. I have seen some rumors about Micic coming to the NBA. I don't know. Anyone that can handle the ball would be a benefit for the Mavs for sure. DM says combo of Conley, Vanderbilt, and Beasley for Simmons probably would get a deal done, to be honest. I think the Nets would accept that. The Nets maybe would even be willing to give up a first-round pick in that deal. I'm going to actually star that and come back to that later. Michael here, Ryan says, Michael, yeah, we got to trade Fred, but that's not enough in return. I'm talking about some of the deals with Orlando, I'm pretty sure. D-Lore says, SGA, Giddey, Dort, Simmons. I mean, that's pretty fun, right? With J-Dub off the bench. Seems pretty good to me. Ryan K says OG is way overrated in my opinion. He's not a top 40 player, but people are acting like he is. Yeah, that's kind of what I was referring to earlier. You know, people just typically are going to react in a way to one of the best available players, and they're going to kind of overhype him and say, oh my gosh, how'd they not get him? He was the best available guy. You know, whatever. DM says way too much for Simmons. Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like the Nets would have to probably give up an asset back in that. But Brendan says DM'd you some bad trades. I think let me go check those out then. For sure. Let's see. Do I have messages? I'm trying to get these pulled up. Let's see if we got anything good in here. One new message request. Here you go from Brendan. Thank you, Brendan, for sending this. Let's go ahead and get these up on the stream right now. Here we go. Let's look at Brendan's trades, guys. The first one here is a trade between the Kings and 76ers, and this is one that I actually do think makes some sense for both sides. Interesting. So he has Matisse Thybulle to Sacramento with George Niang for Davion Mitchell and Terrence Davis. One thing I'm going to say about this, I don't think that the Kings would be willing to give up Davion Mitchell in a deal. Terrence Davis is definitely available. And I think the one thing that's missing here from this deal is the 76ers probably need some size. Just like how I talked about with the Nets adding Dorian to hopefully match up better with Giannis and Tatum and Brown. I think the 76ers, although Davion Mitchell is a good defensive guard, obviously, and Terrence Davis has some, has a role in the league. I think that they're looking for more size. So maybe even Rashawn Holmes in here could make some sense in a couple seconds from Sacramento instead. I think would be a clearer pathway to a deal, in my opinion. And then let's look at the second one you have here. And it's funny, you did include Rashawn Holmes from the Kings. Actually, you have James Bouknight, who just has not lived up to some of the expectations I had on him, and Mark Williams for Rashawn Holmes. Ultimately, I don't think that'll happen. I think the Hornets really like Mark Williams. I understand Rashawn Holmes, at certain points has been pretty positive, but again, you look at his player efficiency rating this year, Mark Williams, 22.1. That's actually a really, really high player efficiency rating. I'd be shocked if it stays that high. But thank you for sending in those trades. Ultimately, I don't see either of them getting done exactly how you mocked it, but I think that there's at least some starting points to talk about there, which is that's half the battle, right? And then let's get to this other trade that we just got sent here by Stuart Lord. Thank you, Stuart, for sending me this trade. I really appreciate it. And here it's the Pistons receiving OG Anunoby. Actually, kind of an underexplored team to talk about in trade discussions for Anunoby. And they actually give up a pretty good collection of players here. Alec Burks to make the money work. Sadiq Bay, a young wing in his own right that Toronto I could see having interest in. Isaiah Stewart definitely would be the best center for the Toronto Raptors at this current juncture. And then 2 first-round picks. So 2026 first and a 2024 first. Of course, no first-round pick this year from the Pistons, just given how their draft odds are looking right now. I wouldn't be giving that pick up either. I think this is an okay framework, Stuart. I actually have a little bit of interest in it. I'm not a Nets fan, so I don't know why I'm getting called a Nets fan, because I'm not. But it's kind of funny. But that's kind of the way I think this is not a terrible framework at all for a deal, honestly. So thanks for sending that in. I do appreciate that a lot. It's very fun looking at your guys' trades. So keep tagging me on Twitter here. Keep mentioning us. Again, the link to that is in the description. So go give us a follow on there as well. It's Frassman says, what other trades do you think the Nets should make and can make? It's hard right now because I don't have a ton of specifics on what the Nets should do, especially with the players that could not become available this trade deadline. I think a guy like Alex Caruso would be helpful for for Brooklyn if you could get him to throw at, maybe a James Harden in the postseason or a Tyrese Maxey, because he's athletic, he's quick, he's a very good perimeter defender who's also very team oriented, smart, understands when to switch screens, when not to. And I'm not just talking on the ball, I'm talking off the ball. He does a good job of helping teams hide their bad defensive players. And honestly, the Nets right now at this point don't have a ton of bad defensive players because of the way that they've operated with some of these moves. They're actually in a very, very solid spot now. Kenneth says, can't Tristan Thompson do that too? He could years ago. That's why the Cavs were able to use him and find success with him was he was a very smart and good defensive big. He was able to switch and defend out in space, but could protect the rim a bit. He's part of the reason why the Cavs were as good as they were. Of course, you have Kyrie, LeBron, Kevin Love as well. That's the framework, right? But Tristan Thompson is a really nice role piece in that as well. Brisket said, if KD is available or wants out, is there any chance the Raptors get a deal done for him? And what would that look like to you? Before the season, I thought the Raptors should be considered the favorites to land him. Not anymore, though. Just given the way that they're playing right now, I just don't love it. It's a risky buy, in my opinion, at this point, just with where they're at in the standings. But I don't even think he's going to get traded this year. So, I mean, maybe in the offseason, and you're looking at all the picks, whatever, you have to give up a ton. Van Lee says PJ Tucker was doing work against Jokic. Excellent defender. He was. And that was huge. That did not get talked enough about, in my opinion, especially on Twitter. Everyone was talking about, Joel Embiid outscoring Jokic, but they didn't really talk about how Jokic was slowed down, and PJ Tucker was really the guy for that. Brian Hernandez says, after all the packages for Kyrie were revealed, which team do you think had the best package for him? I think the Mavericks had the most plausible, like the most, understandable package in terms of helping the Nets win, because you get a wing who can defend in Dorian Finney-Smith against other big wings. But in terms of value, I would say the Clippers with Terrence Mann involved. I thought that was according to the leaked offers, again, we don't actually know if those are for sure the offers that were sent or not. It's reported. Not certain, but I think that the Clippers offer was more valuable, but I do think the Mavs offer was very strong. Jim says, what will the Kings do? That's a great question, Jim. For the Kings, I think one potential option for them is Matisse Thybulle. He's a guy I really like for them. I talked about Jay Crowder a little bit, but I think that, Matisse Thybulle is really the guy that I see them targeting. Ryan Hillier says, for real, this ball content is top-notch. Like the stream, y'all. Yeah, everyone go smash the like button on the stream. I'm going to check how many likes we're at right now. I would love to see that well out above that 100 like mark. I'm sure that we're way above that now. And if we're not, make sure we get there. Miles says, well thought out answer about the bigs. Great content. Glad you enjoyed. That was a great question too, Miles. I just want to make sure you know that I really appreciate that comment. I do have a fun video up on the channel as well. Let me see if I can. I'm just going to pull it up on my phone here so I can show you guys without doing a ton of work here to get it up on the stream. I'm just going to put my phone up to the camera, being a little bit lazy, but let's go ahead and get to this. I have a video up on the channel of how to defend the pick and roll. Look at this cringy thumbnail of mine. Absolutely love that, right? How to defend the pick and roll. I would really recommend go check that out. If you enjoyed the, the way I was talking about the bigs and defensively, little things you can do. That video is really, really fun, honestly. So, it breaks down what the Celtics did last year. It breaks down, pretty much all the traditional and conventional options to guarding the pick and roll. So, a lot of fun. Brian K says Jalen Green has been bad, bro. He's rated low in both ends according to advanced stats. Mobley, Giddey. Okay. Here's the thing. He's playing with Kevin Porter Jr. He's playing for Steven Silas. You put me as a coach there, and I guarantee you Jalen Green's efficiency and, advanced numbers look better, because I would probably have an actual offensive scheme other than just, let's go out there and play like it's the YMCA. So Steven Silas has a job because his last name is Silas, just so you guys are aware of how I feel about him. Caddy says, Pelicans trade. I think that they're hunting OG Anunoby. If the trade were to go down for the Pelicans, it would be an OG Anunoby trade. Please do not spam. Look at this. 3 different comments spamming Pels. Do not do that. It just makes it harder for me to see all the other comments. As Frasman wants to know about a Nets trade. As for the Brooklyn Nets, I think that realistically, again, it just kind of comes down to what opens up to them. I think Josh Hart could be an option from Portland. Darius says, who do you think is the long-term answer at point guard for the Orlando Magic? That's a tough one. It's a real tough one, to be honest. Thank you for all the likes, by the way, on the stream. Right now, I don't think they have it on their roster. I know a lot of people like Markelle Fultz. I understand that, but I I think Markelle Fultz is like a solid guard. I don't think he's like, oh my gosh, this is our point guard. We're going to be great because of him. So I don't know. I think there's work to be done in terms of who the point guard is for the future, whether that's a trade or a signing, Fred VanVleet potentially. Otherwise, you could see maybe in the draft addressing that as well, but we'll see. Perk says Pascal Siakam to the Mavs and for Wood and a pick or two. And I agree with Ryan here. The Raptors are not bailing out the Mavericks. I just don't see that happening. And like Brian's saying here, Siakam is worth way more than that. Siakam's worth at least 3 first-round picks, probably. And then probably a good young player in there as well. So I don't see that happening. Joe Curry says Evan Fournier, Cam Reddish picked this year in 2 seconds. Next year for Jordan Clarkson and Jared Vanderbilt. Not a terrible framework, actually. Probably something that could legitimately get done. Now, the one thing I'm asking you is, why do you guys need Jared Vanderbilt? You have Julius Randle, Obi Toppin, Mitchell Robinson, Isaiah Hartenstein. Like, is there really room for Jared Vanderbilt in New York? Probably not. Van Lee says Katie's radio silence is pretty scary to me. Said nothing for 4 days now. I mean, yeah, he's also injured, so like it's okay. I wouldn't worry. Like, if he was with the team, they'd obviously be like asking questions right now, but he's injured, so it's different. I wouldn't be as worried about it. DM says I think Philly relies too much on Niang shooting in their rotation to give him up for Mitchell and Davis as the return. Yeah, they really like Niang. I do every time I watch Niang, it's just like I've watched probably like 30 I almost said Clippers games. I've probably watched like close to 30 76ers games, maybe a little bit less, maybe like 25 this year. I try to watch, pretty much every single team as many times as I can. By the end of the year, I watch every team at least 20 times. But a lot of them end up in like the 40s, 50s. But for Niang, when he's on fire, like when he's hitting shots, he's really, really important for them as like a pick and pop big and some of their horns actions and some of the little creativity that Doc Rivers has using old sets and everything. He's important with that with Harden, but some nights he's off and you're just like, why is this guy on the floor? Mike says 2 first rounders for OG. He's not even an all-star. Yeah, but you have to understand kind of the going rate right now for players, like a player like him that fits. And here's the thing too, is when you're trading for a player like OG Anunoby, you have to consider, like, if you're Memphis, if you don't trade for him, it's possible another Western Conference team does. And then you maybe have to face him in the postseason instead of having him. So that's kind of the situation. Sporting Game says, can you refresh Twitter and read some news? Maybe transactions happen right now. Yeah, I'm keeping my eyes on it on Twitter right now. We actually got we got a couple notifications. I actually got mentioned here from Brendan again, so I'm actually going to go ahead and pull that up on the stream here again. Thank you guys so much for tagging me in some of these trades. There's been a lot of fun talking about your guys' trades. Usually I have trade ideas, and ideas that I like, but that's where my trade guides, I show a lot of those, and I've got videos talking about potential trades. So it's a lot of fun to do that. I like this, Brendan. Let's go ahead and get this on stream. He DM'd me saying, or he messaged saying, in an alternate universe where the Kings still make bad trades, and it's De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis for Kyrie Irving and Markieff Morris. It's funny, and he's making me wish that we did not have Kyrie Irving. Look at, does that say minus 21 wins? I think that's got to be the highest like differential I've ever seen. And to be honest, it's accurate. The Kings would be so much worse this way, which is pretty hilarious. JJ says, what up, utility? It's been a while. It has been. Glad to have you back in here, JJ. Thank you so much for stopping in. Remember, we're going to be live all week long. So I'm live today, going to be live tomorrow, and then also going to be live Wednesday and Thursday. So I've really committed to the grind for you guys. I hope you understand, the commitment that I'm putting here for you guys. Joe Curry says, Hartenstein, Fournier, Rose, Reddish, 5 unprotected first to Brooklyn for Kevin Durant, Seth Curry, Day'Ron Sharpe, and TJ Warren. Now we're talking about an offer. The only issue, though, is I don't think the Brooklyn Nets are willing to trade Kevin Durant to the New York Knicks. I don't think Kevin Durant will get traded this season, and he definitely will not get traded to the New York Knicks this season, simply because of the PR issue of, hey, we traded Kevin Durant to our big brother, right? You know, they get labeled that way a lot, where the Nets and Clippers are the little brothers of their cities. I think it becomes pretty tough for them to kind of recover from. Jamie Redmond says, do you think Mark Williams is good enough in drop to become an elite defensive big in the playoffs, despite being unlikely to ever be able to step out on the perimeter to a great level? Yeah, like I don't think Mark Williams is going to play at the level of the screen a ton. He's a little bit better at that than Walker Kessler. Now, the one thing I'm going to say about Mark Williams is he's another huge mammoth human being, 7'1". I believe he had a 9'4" standing reach. He's got, I think, a 7'7" wingspan. He's a huge human being. So I think in drop, he could develop in that way. Now, I don't think Steve Clifford's the right coach there in Charlotte. I'm not completely shocked by the volume of losing that Charlotte's doing. That's what happens when you hire a non-successful coach to be your coach again. But, you know, it is the way it is. Unfortunately, that's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles for Charlotte. Jim says, since Davion Mitchell can't shoot, can the Kings get a backup point who can score? Probably not a backup point, but maybe we could see something like a Seth Curry or a Patty Mills, who are kind of combo guards at best, where they handle the ball a little bit. They can shoot off the move, but they're not going to, you know, run an offense for a team. That's a little bit different going forward. D-Lore says, I know I've been talking about OKC, but I'm biased. LOL. Have you seen Katie talking about Shea and liking posts about Shea on Twitter? Something to look out for. I would love, I mean, think about the storylines. You know, the NBA script writer says, you know, evidenced by TikTok and Twitter and everything going on right now in the sports world because of Arian Foster. I mean, the script writers would be on point with a Kevin Durant reunion to Oklahoma City. It'd be very, very fun. Mike says, do you think Suns want too much for Jay? No, I think they're just being patient. They're trying to get the best offer. You know, there's reports that the Suns are kind of hard to trade with. Yeah, that's the whole point. You don't want to just be an easy team to trade with. That doesn't really seem like the route you want to be. So, Dakilla says, do you think the Wiz can offload Beal to anyone? No, because, and this is the issue, the Wizards signed him to a bad contract. And the Wizards are happy they signed him to a bad contract, because the Wizards are more worried about having a face of the franchise player, having a guy who, oh, that's our guy, right? Beal's our guy, who's supposed to be John Wall, but it's Beal now. Like, they're more worried about that than building a contender. It's just the reality. So I don't think the Wizards are going to offload him. I think that they're super happy with him. And DM here says, bang, bang, Niang. Obviously, you know, referencing the play-by-play there from the 76ers booth with the excitement from Bang Bang Niang every time he hits a three-pointer. He and like Ryan's saying here, Niang does hit some big shots. He's had some very notable performances. So we'll see. Do you think Clippers make any moves, maybe like a Mike Conley? I think that they're more likely to trade for Fred VanVleet, to be honest. D-Lore said, bro said he doesn't like Giddey on the floor with Simmons. Giddey's been shooting 30. Yeah, Giddey's been really good. I mean, since January 1st, the Thunder are first in the NBA in three-point percentage. Simmons would be really fun. I'm not sure if there was a comment that said that they're not a fan of Giddey and Simmons together, but I would like that. I mean, that'd be really fun. The one thing that Presti's been looking for is guys who can, you know, play make. He likes guys who can dribble, pass, shoot. And now Simmons is not the shoot guy, but since you have Holmgren, you probably can get away with Simmons, which I think does make some sense. DM says, I said Giddey has to sustain or improve his shooting is all. I just don't think his Simmons is worth the percentage of cap his contract takes up. Hardly for any teams in the league. Giddey is good. Okay, I see. So you two were talking. I get what I see what's going on now. And I know minus 21 wins is hilarious. And it only got the Nets +1. Yeah, it doesn't really make sense. The Nets would be actually a lot better that way. But the Kings just bottom out. It's funny too, because it says minus 21 wins, and right now with where they sit in the Western Conference, they have 29 wins. So basically, Hollinger would pick them to have 8 wins at this point, which is hilarious. Wrestling with Ritz says, I've heard teams like Charlotte and Indy interested in Obi Toppin. Could that be a move for them? Grab an upside guy to maybe be a part of their future at a low cost, and he doesn't kill a tank. Yeah, so I think Indy is really one of the teams to watch for that. If you look at Kevin Pritchard and Rick Carlisle, what they've done since their reunion in Indiana is they've targeted a lot of guys who have been either former lottery picks or former first-round picks in trades. So you look at, Jalen Smith's an example of that. Aaron Nesmith's an example of that. They've targeted guys who were former first-round level players, that haven't worked out up to this point. So I think it's very possible we could see an Obi Toppin type trade to a team like Indiana. I also would say, don't rule out other situations as well where guys who maybe aren't playing super great or haven't lived up to expectations, that they're still probably likely available when it comes to that. Let's go over to this now. Funny. This is great. This is from JJ Redick on February 9th, 2022. Last year at the trade deadline, he said, De'Aaron can't shoot, Sabonis can't shoot. Make it make sense, Zach. Make it make sense. And since then, Sabonis became a third-time All-Star. Halliburton's a one-time All-Star though too. So it's a funny situation. This is really funny on stream. I actually really like this. I'm going to hit the retweet button on that. JJ, great take, Redick. That's an awesome nickname for him. Thanks for sending that, Brendan. That's really hilarious. I hope you guys all got to enjoy that. That was funny for me to see. Colin says the Kings are leading the league in scoring. They need to keep Davion for defense. Yeah, I think that defense is the big thing that they're looking to improve. They were top 3 in offensive rating, and I think they're bottom 10 in defensive rating. So that's why I've circled Matisse Thybulle as a pretty good option for them as well. Wrestling with Rit says, how about Oklahoma City trades for Durant and in the offseason, Russ and Harden sign there for cheap? The old big 3 joins up with the new one. Could you imagine a combination of Durant, Harden, Russ, SGA, Giddey, Holmgren? Oh my goodness. Ryan says, let's talk about how the Clippers are low-key building the 2019 Raptors. That's what they're trying to do. I've been talking about that for a little while now, not just today, but for a few months actually, how I thought, Van Vliet would be kind of sneaky there. Don't rule out the Clippers. I think the Clippers are due for something big today. Or not today, but this deadline, sorry. Today is not the right word to use there. I'm sorry if I scared anybody. I scared myself, clearly. Troy says, sorry if you answered already, but Gordon for Shake Milton, a possibility, barely in the rotation for Philly when they're healthy. But I sure love them. Yeah, I think that's probably a little bit better. I know you tweeted at me. I did respond to it earlier in the stream, but thanks for bringing it up again. I just want to make sure that you guys, give the answers to the questions you want to hear about. So, King Day, I would love for you to send in a trade. Anyone who wants to send in a trade, please do so. Just all you have to do is go give us a follow on Twitter. Our @ is Utility Sports. Let's go over to the profile here just so you guys can see it. This is our account, right? Utility Sports. Just a reminder, too, these were the videos that came out today. There's the little retweet there. I'm live on that as well. I'm live on Twitter as well as YouTube. I didn't even know I could go live on Twitter until today, so kind of funny. But here's the videos that came out today. We have this NBA mock draft. Really fun to record that one. And then also Mavs Trade Guide 2.0. So a lot of work went into those videos. So go here, twitter.com/_utility sports and tweet at us. And then your tweets will get shown on the stream. So that would be awesome. King Rose, thanks for the follow on Twitter. Really appreciate that. Jim Thurkill says there seems to be a group of bridge coaches that will never do anything or stick anywhere. Clifford, Gentry, Silas, etc. Yeah, those are the guys. Stan Van Gundy also turned into that before becoming a TNT broadcaster. DM says, now that's what I call 2 timelines. I like it. The nice thing is the first timeline for Oklahoma City is good enough to help compete and win a title for the timeline, the older timeline. So it would be fun to watch it. Now it's a little weird, right? But I mean, if Oklahoma City could find a way to get it done, it would be awesome. Sporting Game said, what is your hope on trading Christian Wood? Dream trade return, you hoping to help Luke and Irving and defensively? I think that if they're going to trade him, they better get 2 good players. And I'm not talking Plumlee good. I'm talking like good. Like attach a first with Wood and see what you can do then from there. That's my thought. Do the Right Thing says, if you were running the Milwaukee Bucks, what is the move or moves that you would make? And that's a great question. Thank you, Do the Right Thing, for that one. And I'm excited about this. Let's talk about Milwaukee. I actually have a very close relationship with the Milwaukee Bucks. I do know some of the things going on in that building. And I know Jay Crowder is a big-time target for them. So that's the player I would target as well. Again, it's about matching up with the wings in Boston. You think about the Celtics, you think about Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, wings galore. You need to have big wings that can defend those guys. So those are the players that you're really watching for. And Jay Crowder is the guy I would trade for. I think other than that, I would maybe explore a Jalen Noel trade, see if the Timberwolves are willing to give him up since he's struggled this year. I think he'd be a nice bench scoring option for them. And then maybe a Jordan Clarkson type. Those would be the three players I'd have interest in. But for the most part, I think Jay Crowder's right at the top of the board for me. Brennan says, I think the Kings should give Cousins another chance. Some of the issues were his fault, but he had a very bad organization that did not help and several bad coaches. Brown can handle him. He has before. I think that would be interesting. Boogie would be an actually pretty solid addition there. Let's go back over to the Twitter now too. And let's go to the most recently tweeted tweet at me. This is from King Rose. So thank you for tweeting that, Antonio. And here we have a trade between the Nets and the Nuggets. And it's an interesting one. Looking at it right away, I'm probably going to shoot it down for one reason. But I do like it. I like the idea behind it. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Zeke Naji, and Bones Highland all going to the Brooklyn Nets for Seth Curry, Royce O'Neal, and Day'Ron Sharpe. Now, I like this. I think it's an okay starting point to a trade. The one thing I have issues with, though, is KCP has just been such a good fit in Denver, and Royce O'Neal's been a good fit in Brooklyn. What's really the benefit for those two teams swapping those guys? I understand Denver adds a shooter with Curry and another big guy with Day'Ron Sharpe, and the Nets pivot to Bones Highland, who maybe has a little bit more long-term upside than a guy like Seth Curry. It's an understandable trade here from the some of the younger guys' perspectives, like Najee, Highland, and you can understand it from the Nuggets wanting to get Seth Curry and maybe Day'Ron Sharpe for his physical frame. But the one thing I have an issue with is, again, I just don't see the Nuggets being willing to give up KCP here. So thank you for sending that. I appreciate you sending that in, and you guys keep sending me more stuff. I've loved getting your guys' trade ideas in the Twitter sphere. It's a lot of fun. So thank you so much for sending that, King Rose. Wrestling with Ritz says, heck, OKC could grab Ibaka and Green to a reunion tour. That would be so fun. Oh my gosh. It was fun watching Jeff Green last night. I got to watch him in person for the Nuggets, and he I believe he shot 1 of 7 from the field and 0 of 5 from 3. Was not his best performance of the season. Colin says Kings don't need Cousins. They have an all-star center plus a good backup. If you're talking about Chimezie Metu as their backup, I mean, yeah, Metu's okay. I just think like Boogie would be an okay ad for him, for them, to be honest. Smitza says, I'm high on Giddey. I love Josh Giddey. If you guys go all the way back, and I mean all the way back to some of my mock drafts about Josh Giddey on that 2021 draft, I think that was. My brain's all mush, sorry. 2.5 hours of live streaming. I start to forget what my middle name is even. But you could go back. I was the first person on all of YouTube to mock Josh Giddey in the lottery. Most people, if you go back, if you try and find a mock from like, say, late August 2020, where, or not even late August, like probably December 2020, just with the way that season started, a little bit later on, people were mocking Giddey in the second round. And pretty much from the very get-go, I was saying, look, he's a first-round player. To start, I had him, I think, at about 13, 14 range, so back into the lottery. The whole NBL thing has always been interesting to me. I've loved some of the players throughout that process. And Wrestling with Ritz here is backing me up on this. He said, facts, this man was all in on Giddey. I really, really, really like Josh Giddey. I wish I was louder about it at the time, because I've been loud about certain things. I wish I would have been louder about Giddey because I really liked him. By the way, I'm going to say it now, just so you guys all remember, 160 of you here watching. Anthony Black from Arkansas is this year's Josh Giddey. He is fantastic. I love Anthony Black a ton. Another 6'7" guard with really good playmaking, field passes with anticipation. I really, really like Anthony Black in a very similar way to how I felt about Josh Giddey coming in. And I did predict Barnes going before Suggs, and I had him higher on my board. A lot of people, pretty much everybody, consensusly looked at Suggs as the preferred pick over Barnes. And I remember on draft night, I actually, let's see if I can actually pull that up on YouTube here. It would be actually very interesting. Raptors draft Barnes. Let's see if I can find this, because I think it'd be really fun to point this out. Here's the video. I want to talk about this quick because I had a lot of fun. I mean, that draft was like my baby, right? I spent so much time on that draft. One of the most I've ever covered a draft, I think, on YouTube besides this past year. Now, like at the time, it was my most covered draft, right? So here's my video, right? Toronto Raptors select Scottie Barnes with the 4th overall pick. This is a draft grade and reaction the night of, 2 minutes, 24-second long video. That was before I did the whole live stream thing. And in the title, I included, why did they pass on Jalen Suggs? And then I said, the Raptors selected Scottie Barnes with their pick. Is this a big risk to pass on Suggs? You see, I'm actually here recording with my co-creator on the channel. And let's go to the comment section. This is where things are fun. Because a lot of Raptors fans actually were not very happy about this pick. So, and this is the one this is why I liked it, right? This guy here said, just imagine getting guarded by OG, then switch to Siakam, then switch to Barnes. Ouch. Right. And this is why I liked it. I should have left a heart on that comment. I'm going to right now. He's going to say, whoa, I left that comment a long time ago. Right. Oh, look at that. Wrestling with Ritz. Look at that. That's how long he's been watching the channel, man. Publicly subscribed for over a year. You guys nailed it with having Barnes going 4th. I'm a Knicks fan, so I'll take not dealing with Suggs. It's crazy because like it's just funny how things have changed, right? It's completely different. Let's keep going. Jay-Z said it was a ballsy move. Scottie Barnes can guard Suggs. Suggs cannot guard Scottie. Enough said. And this shows what I said in the video. Tommy says, I'll trust you guys that Barnes is the higher ceiling prospect. And I responded saying he'll be great in Toronto. As you guys can tell, I was a really, oh man, I was a little savage. This is funny because this guy doesn't understand how closely I followed Suggs. Gustavo here took a huge L. He said, the thing you guys don't understand is that Suggs is a winner. High school basketball, high school football, goes on the whole spiel. I said, what will you say about winning when Orlando goes 30-52 next season? And he said he took Gonzaga with nobodies. Like, look at this. Some of this is really funny to me. Oh, man. I really, really liked this for Toronto when they took him. So it feels really good to have, kind of been vindicated in that. So it's kind of funny wrestling with Ritz. The fact that you had comments on that video that I just pulled up now, it really, really makes me laugh, honestly. So I'm really appreciative of you bringing that up as well, because it's fun to go back and check some of those things every once in a while. Brendan said Cousins is better than Metu, plus a good story for the city redemption. The beam. He said all he wanted was to get Sack a championship. We're actually on our way to one. He'd be very motivated. I don't think it could hurt bringing him in, to be honest. Giddey's took some big strides this year, and he came in the league starter material. He did. And one thing, everyone's talking about Giddey's three-pointer. His floater is insanely good too. That's, I think, been a really important part of their the process there too, for his development. He's gotten a lot better in that regard. Jean B-Ball Vid says, if you're the Mavs, would you send Wood for Kennard and Rocco? No, I don't think I would. I really like Kennard. Rocco's overrated. Rocco's not that good anymore. Mr. Giddey is only 20 years old, so that's crazy. He's going to be really good. He's really going to be good. Wrestling with Ritz says, I disagree when you said Barnes above Suggs because they had Siakam and OG already. We're losing Lowry, so Suggs seemed like a natural. And that makes all the sense in the world. I think, to be honest, if we went back and looked at a lot of my mocks, for the most part, I was probably thinking, Suggs for a good part of the season. In fact, I remember that in some mocks, I for sure thought that, just with where Lowry's contract was. But I remember it was toward the end of the draft cycle, and I just Barnes had a visit there, and I just kind of thought about Masai Ujiri, the way that he likes to draft, and Suggs made sense, but I thought, man, does he really pass on a guy like Barnes, who you look at the upside, and I thought, no, I don't think he does, and that's what really flipped it with me. But you're understanding there is definitely one that I understand and I get too. And hindsight is an MFer. No question about, like, trust me, I've had times I've even made videos about this where like I was really low on Franz Wagner. That's a huge L. It's a huge L for me, right? So sometimes you're just going to be wrong. I know Colin, it's funny. The one guy was saying that Gonzaga is not that good. I was like, what are you talking about? Kind of funny. Troy says if Rockets win the lottery and move to the third, move to the 3, small forward for Jabari Smith would open up more possibilities to his offensive game. Markkanen's resurgence has happened since he was moved to the 3. Thoughts? I mean, kind of. I think Jabari just needs a point guard next to him. They need somebody who can actually run an offense. Jabari Smith's going to be good. Jabari Smith's going to be a very good NBA player for a long time. He just needs to be in the right system. Like, and this is the one thing, like, think about trading Dyson Daniels for Jabari Smith right now. Like, I would say Dyson Daniels having a good rookie season for himself, right? I wasn't super high on Dyson Daniels. And it's because of the infrastructure. Dyson Daniels is in a perfect situation for himself to kind of, fit in and not have to be doing too much. Jabari Smith right now is like, how many open shots do his guards create for him a game? Like 0. Yeah, it's not great. So that's just kind of the situation. D-Lore says, I've been like the way Shea and Giddey have been meshing. OKC plays beautiful basketball. Yes, they do. And I'm telling you right now, once Chet gets back, oh my gosh, it's going to be even better. They are going to be so much fun to watch. Joe Curry says, DeJounte Murray, DeAndre Hunter for Evan Fournier, D-Rose, 4 unprotected first, 2 this year. Probably not going to happen. I don't see DeJounte getting traded. Smith says Suggs doesn't completely suck. I think he will be a starter in his prime. Yeah, I think so too. Mary Ortiz is really sad right now, talking about some of the Suggs Barnes stuff. So I want to I do this is going to be mean. I shouldn't do this. But I'm going to do this anyway. Just because I knew this picture existed from his workout because I used it in a thumbnail before. So let's I'm going to go ahead and share this on the screen. I'm sorry, Mary, in advance. I know you're a Mavs Magic fan. Yesterday was probably somewhat of a tough day for you like it was for me. I'm not trying to make your day any tougher here, but there's Scotty Barnes in a Magic shirt after his workout with Orlando. It's like one of those cursed images. It's like the, Kobe Bryant in the Celtics gear warming up, like that kind of stuff. Obviously not to the level. Barnes is not as good as Kobe Bryant, obviously, but I mean, it's so funny. Sporting Game says, bro, many sources from Twitter said Mavs traded Christian Wood for Morris brother. Imagine watching both of the Morris brothers play on the same team. This is the one thing I didn't talk about this yesterday in the live stream. I started talking with my co-creator last night about it. Remember the bubble playoffs where Marcus Morris and Luka Doncic really got into it? Yeah, that's now Luka's teammate's brother. So that's going to be an interesting conversation for them. Mike Howard says, do you think Cousins can be a competent backup for another team like the Sixers? Yes, I do think he could be helpful. There was one time DeMarcus Cousins signed a 10-day contract, and he said the most true thing of all time in NBA history. He said it was kind of ridiculous that he's not on an actual NBA contract because he said, I don't think anyone else on a 10-day contract has ever been double teamed. And he was probably accurate. He got double teamed on a 10-day contract because he's still a skilled, talented player. He should be in the NBA. He should be. John here says, I'm subscribed for a long time, but was not with time to watch your most recent videos. Really glad about your growth, bro. Also, as a Mavs fan, what would be your next moves? Well, I really appreciate that. I know the people who have been supporting us for a long time. I really appreciate you guys. I can say all the cliche things about how great it is to have supporters and people who want to listen to me talk about basketball and want to, share their own opinions with me as well. So I can hear from you guys. Like, I can say all of that. I don't think you guys fully, hear and understand how thankful I really am. It is a blessing to be able to go live and have like 150 people just come hang out and talk about basketball all day long. That's awesome. I love it so much. And I'm really, really thankful for each and every one of you. All the great questions you ask, hanging out, taking your time to hear about some of the trade rumors going on in the NBA. It's a lot of fun. So I really appreciate all of you guys and women as well. Unspoken Hoop Knowledge says, what do you think about the Pacers, what will they do at the trade deadline? Well, Unspoken Hoop Knowledge, welcome to the stream. I think this is the first time I've seen your comment. I'm not sure if you were in here yesterday. Yesterday, the comment section was going crazy because there was like 3,000 people in here. It was impossible. I was looking at the some of the stream data on that, and honestly, at certain moments, we were getting like 100 comments a minute. So it was impossible to keep up. So for the Pacers, I think that they're going to look at OG Anunoby. That would be the player I would guess that they go for. Otherwise, I could see them, targeting some other first-round guys. Maybe a Cam Reddish deal could also make some sense. Kind of fits their MO of trading for former first-round picks. Wrestling with Ritz says, I keep saying on other videos, people are so down on Jabari. Dude has 2 guards with complete tunnel vision. Gordon won't pass. Plus, he's playing good defense. He held Giannis to 8 points against him. Yeah, like Jabari, I knew this. You can go back to my Rookie of the Year prediction and my first team all rookies. I did include Jabari Smith on the list because he was a top 3 pick, and I love his talent. I think he's a very good player. So I did ultimately include him. But I was in that video, I said multiple times that I was very, very pessimistic about him playing with those guards. And I thought about leaving him off. I don't think Buddy Hield will get traded though from the Pacers if I had to answer about that. Ryan says, we appreciate you more, fam. Thank you for the 5, Ryan. Ryan's always hitting us up with great, awesome donations. So thank you so much, Ryan, for that. Jaideep, welcome to the channel. He's a big time Raptors fan. Jaideep, I remember you being in here last trade deadline as well, when there was rumors about Porzingis possibly to the Raptors. What's going on with them? Then Thad Young gets traded there. I remember you being in here. So thank you again for stopping in. And my thoughts on the Raptors, I think that they're going to at least make 2 trades this deadline. I think one of them is going to be centered around Van Vliet. And then I think a likely Gary Trent Jr. trade gets done. Right now, this is what we call the calm before the storm, right? Things are kind of going quiet right now. We don't have a lot of news at this given moment, but I think things are going to start heating up within the next day or so. And then the big question, this is the big domino that's left on the market, is OG Anunoby. Will he be traded? What does it take to get him? I'm very excited to find out. And I think he's going to be one of the more fun players to talk about this trade deadline. As for Buddy Hield getting traded, and are they buyers or sellers? I think that they are buyers for Anunoby, and if they can't get a deal for Anunoby, I think that they're willing to use some contracts like Goga Bitadze and other pieces that are expiring to take in some negative value contracts if it means they're getting draft assets. Mary says, kind of mad at you for the Jalen Suggs slander. He's not a bum. That's a cursed image for sure. Yeah, no, like here's the thing. So like people, it happens all the time. It happens all the time. People just way overreact within the first year or 2 of a guy's career. It happens all the time. You have no idea how many people are like, oh my gosh, Jaden Ivey is not going to win Rookie of the Year. I thought you had him number 1. What? They all freak out at me. Everyone does. And again, this is a projection for a career. I picked Paolo Banchero to be my Rookie of the Year. Now, do I think Dwayne Casey and the Pistons are using Jaden Ivey perfectly? No, not at all. Actually, it's kind of surprising to me, especially with Cade out. I thought, hey, this is going to be Jaden Ivey time to really run the show. For some reason, Killian Hayes keeps getting the ball. That's what we call tanking. No, Suggs is not bad. And I think Suggs is learning some things. I think he's figuring some things out. But he needs to grow as an offensive player for him to be a, worthwhile top 5 pick. Michael says, I think Suggs is fine with Orlando. I know y'all don't know this, but he's growing into a lockdown defender. He's Orlando's version of Marcus Smart. I think that's what he was going to be. Let me pull up my Jalen Suggs, what I wrote about him. I think I have it in my notes here on my phone. Typically, I write on a Google Doc, but I also sometimes here's what I wrote about Jalen Suggs. Gonzaga, combo guard, quick, point guard vision, elite slasher, adjustments midair, tough defender, quick feet, good hands in the passing lane, quality handles, and transition threat. So for some of those top players, I typically kept it shorter. Sometimes it's helpful for me to review some of those before recording a mock or before recording my big board. For a guy like, Jalen Suggs, I'd watched him so many times in high school, and I actually watched him a lot of times at Gonzaga as well, probably like 12, 13 games. Which is a pretty good sample size to watch a full game. So that's my thought on him. I still think that defensively he's I don't necessarily see Marcus Smart. I see a little bit more Drew Holiday, which I think is a good thing, by the way. Unspoken Hoop Knowledge says, thoughts on Tyrese Halliburton. Is he the next point god? Yeah, he's kind of in the process of it. He plays very similar to Chris Paul in terms of ability to manipulate a defense, make the right play, doesn't really turn over the ball a ton. Yeah, I probably is, to be honest. Sporting Game says, why Dallas not finish the deal like Cam Reddish for Bullock and THJ for LeVert? So both of them help defense a lot. So we have space to keep Wood. Cam Reddish is worse defensively than Reggie Bullock, for sure. I do not want to trade Reggie Bullock for Cam Reddish. Now, do I think it's a possibility? Yes. But I don't want to see it. I don't want to have it happen. Mike Howard says, do you see the Celtics playing off a Jakob trade? I could see that. I could also see, I talked about this a little bit earlier, but potentially Kelly Olynyk could be an option for them from the Utah Jazz, as well as Malik Beasley. I think that there's options for Boston out there in terms of the center market. Now, if the Pacers are willing to give up Isaiah Jackson, that's what I would prefer for Boston, but we'll see. I think Boston wants a big who can shoot a little bit, though, which is why I think they prefer Olynyk, because he can shoot. He can also drive the ball a little bit different offensively than Jakob, what he's giving you, obviously. Brendan says, do you have any plans for a Utility Sports Discord? Yes, I do, actually. I was planning on getting that set up at some point this week, and I've already got ideas for some mods as well on who could maybe be moderators if they're willing to do that. So that might be something I reach out to other people on the comment section of other videos, just because it's really easy to communicate that way. So yeah, Utility Sports Discord is probably in the works, to be honest. So we'd love to have as many people as possible in that, where we could just talk about hoops, and you guys could ask me questions and I could ask you questions. That's one of my favorite things. Again, like I keep saying it, but it's because it's true. I love hearing what you guys have to say about the NBA and what you guys think about players, prospects, that kind of stuff. Tequila says, what team do you think would benefit most by adding Wembanyama this summer? Obviously, everyone would. That's exactly what I was going to say. But what's the best fit of the bottom teams in the league? Wow, that's a good question. So for me, the team that I think needs him the most, it's a tough question. The answer for me is probably San Antonio. I don't like San Antonio's direction at all. Like I really like Vassell. I like Keldon Johnson, but those two players are just like not good enough to win like a ton. So for me, I just don't really see that being a great option, honestly. So that's kind of what I would say is probably San Antonio. Just the NBA has treated them well with giving them big men, David Robinson, Tim Duncan, Victor Wembanyama. That's what I would have to guess. Let's go ahead and we're going to go back to Twitter here. I've gotten tagged in a few more trades. Reminder, go on Twitter and tag us in some deals, and then we'll talk about them live on the channel here. This one here from Marco. We have another trade. This trade is making Mavs get third ball handler and tried to play small lineup. Realistically, we threw one first-round pick. What do you think on this trade? And the deal is Tim Hardaway Jr. and, of course, Christian Wood. It looks like that actually got translated to another language, which is funny. For D'Angelo Russell and Naz Reid. And then ideally the Wolves would receive a first-round pick as well from the Mavericks. Naz Reid's not a bad option. D'Angelo Russell, I think, has been playing too well, though, for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He shot 49% from three in January, which is absolutely insane, right? 49% from three is pretty crazy. We have a tweet here from RR times 6. Let's look at this one, and it's a big one. Holy cow, 4-team trade, which is fun. I like this. So basically, it's an extension of the already made deal, right? So Kyrie, Morris to Dallas, Dinwiddie, Finney-Smith, and the Mavs pick over to Brooklyn, which actually looks like they don't have that included yet. So then the Nets also get DeRozan and Porzingis and a 2028 first. Okay, this is looking like a lot. Vucevic and LaVine to the Wizards. This seems like the most Washington Wizards thing of all time. And the Bulls get Will Barton, Joe Harris, Ben Simmons, Monte Morris, Kessler Edwards, Cam Thomas, and 2 first-round picks. If I had to guess, this is a no from the Chicago Bulls. To give up LaVine and Vooch and DeRozan, to be honest, Harris is a negative contract. Barton's an expiring. They don't view him as something they want to keep. Simmons is looked at as a negative contract right now. Monte Morris is whatever. Kessler Edwards, okay. Cam Thomas, maybe there's some value, right? And then 2 first-rounders. I think that this is just a little bit too complex of a deal. I think there's too many moving pieces. Although I do think it's interesting. I'm very thankful you sent this to me because I do think it's a fun deal to look at. Ultimately, our time, I'd have to say that this deal just likely does not actually get done. Let's go ahead and look at this other one, though. So here is that same trade. And I don't know what's going on with all of... Oh, wait. Are the Bulls getting all of these picks? So the Mavs, because of the step-in rule, can't trade all of this anyway. They can't trade like the 2028, 2027 first, since they traded the 2029 one. And they already have traded, some of these picks. So it's an interesting framework, but it does look like a lot going on. And I feel like sometimes when you're making mock trades, it's easier to keep it simple and work between 2 teams and then add a 3rd team when it's really necessary. So otherwise things get very, very tricky. D-Lore says, I don't think Jabari's a top 3 talent, though. He's just 3-and-D. He probably isn't. I probably could just be wrong about it. Part of the reason why I looked at him as a potential top 3 talent is if you look at the type of defender he was. There was hopes that he could become an all-defense type of prospect, right? Which is why you look at him there. And then at times for Auburn, obviously he was never a main ball handler. He was not great off of the dribble, but he was a good contested shot maker. And that's where you see potential, right? So I'm probably wrong about where I had him on my board. That's one of the few things I feel like, oh no, I didn't get that right. But just where I had him, but I did have Chet Holmgren ahead of him. So Wrestling with Red says OKC was the dream spot for Jabari. Definitely would have been good next to Giddey and Shea. It probably makes Jabari Smith look like a completely different player. William wants to know, will the Sacramento Kings make a trade? I think they will. I think it's going to be Matisse Thybulle. I think Thybulle will head to Sacramento this trade deadline. Jean B-Ball Vid says, if I'm the Mavs, I'm trading Wood for players that can defend and shoot the 3-ball. Then I would try to trade all in for Pirtle with a pick. If not possible, would try Plumlee. What do you think? Maybe. It depends on what players you're getting for Wood. Like, ideally you can say that, but, yeah. It's like, you have to have like an actual definitive plan for me to buy in on something. Jaideep says, yes, sir, man, I'm back. Took a little break, but I'm back at it. Now hoping my Raptors make some moves. We'll see exactly what happens for sure. One Hand Youssef, thank you for stopping in. I know you're always liking the tweets on Twitter, and you're also always watching the videos on YouTube. So I really appreciate you. Such a great viewer to have, and I'm really thankful. Says Mavs should go all out to get Trey Lyles. Trey Lyles has been pretty awesome, actually, for the Kings this year. Something I was not expecting to say before the year started. He's knocked down some big-time threes for them. You think about their win the other day over the Minnesota Timberwolves. He was incredible in the overtime performance, specifically after Sabonis was out. Ryan Hillier says, are you streaming tomorrow too? Yes, I will be streaming every single day this week through the NBA trade line. So tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, I'll be live every single day. So that's how much I'm trying. Uli wants to know my opinion on the Wagner brothers, and he says greetings from Germany. Well, thank you for watching from Germany. That's awesome to think that I have somebody from, Europe watching my stream right now. It's kind of insane. And to be honest, you and I probably get along real well because my favorite player of all time is Dirk Nowitzki. So I'm sure you and I would love to talk about Dirk and have a good time doing that. But Wagner's are good, specifically Franz. Franz is the guy who has is going to be a long-term NBA starter. And not only that, he could probably be a top 3 player on a championship team at some point. He's very, very good. Orlando has a really good, intriguing wing duo of him and Paulo. Now, for Mo, I think is a rotational big guy, right? I don't think he's going to be somebody who sticks around. I liked him coming out of Michigan a few years ago. And then he went to the Lakers and it was kind of a mess. The Lakers just don't know how to develop anybody. But I think he's played fairly well for Orlando. But Franz is really the guy that, gets everybody excited, as he should. Jordan says, any chance Ayton gets moved? If I had to guess, I would say no. He can veto any trade. If DeAndre Ayton got traded, that's like the holy crap, what is going on? That's like the, you'd have to check with me and see how my mental health's doing, because I'd be like so frazzled. And the one thing is, like, I've been live for almost 3 hours now. When you're live for this long and you've been talking this entire time, by the end of the day, you get like really tired and your brain is just like mush. So I'm going to do my best over the next 4 days to, stay completely fresh and revitalized on trade stuff, especially while I'm still posting videos every single day as well. But no, I don't think Ayton gets moved. But we'll see. If he gets moved, my brain's gonna be moving 1,000 miles a minute. Mark Ty says, "Do you think Kings will land Thibault?" I do. I really like Thibault in Sacramento. They have players that they can send out in a deal to make that work money wise. You look at some of the options there. You just looking at their cap table. They have guys that they can send right around that $4 million mark. They have a guy at 3.91. They've got a guy at 4. It makes it really easy to see a trade getting done for Thibault in terms of finances and also, low-level draft pick compensation. Troy Dilworth says, Şengün is clearly the best player on the Rockets at this point. His play since Kevin Porter Jr. has been hurt has been dominant. I do think he's more Sabonis than Jokic. I honestly don't think Jalen is the guy. And, Troy, I agree with this. Ultimately, Jalen isn't the guy. The reason why I didn't say the Rockets needed Wembanyama as bad as the Spurs is because I think ideally the Rockets, if they get the second pick and add Scoot Henderson, then Scoot becomes the guy. Şengün is the big, and Jalen Green is the scorer. And I think that's how things would really work in Houston with a new coach. You need the coach for the guys, the right coach. I think there's plenty of options for them. And I think that Scoot Henderson is such a smart, good, savvy point guard already that he would make everybody else their work. Jabari, basically, if the Rockets were able to draft Scoot Henderson, it would be like redrafting Jabari Smith again, because of how much of a different player he would look like next season. It would be really, really awesome. Unspoken Hoop Knowledge says the starting lineup of Tyrese Haliburton, Benedict Mathurin, OG Anunoby, John Collins, and Miles Turner. Is that team in 2 years being contenders or no? It really depends on those first two guys. Haliburton, right now he's playing at an all-star level. For them to be contenders, he needs to be an all-NBA level, which he's not far from it. He's not, but it is another step forward. And Benedict Mathurin would need to be an all-star level player. And I think there's potential for him to get there. If you go back through my mock drafts, you go back through my big boards, you guys will know that I loved Benedict Mathurin for most of the process. I really did. To be honest, was I high enough on him? Probably not. I probably should have been a little bit higher. But I really like Ben Mathurin a ton, probably more than anybody else on YouTube, honestly. OG Anunoby, he helps. John Collins, I don't think John Collins will be a Pacer, quite frankly. But I think that you have a good foundation, at least, and one that I could see developing in a way that would make them at least competitive enough to have a shot in the East. Mary Ortiz says, I get it, and yeah, it's been meh. I'm not fond of the Kyrie move, but we'll see. Love Jalen Suggs. I love that, Mary. I'm glad you're sticking with Jalen Suggs. Don't sell your stock just because a player's struggling early. That's how you end up, not liking a guy that ends up being really good for, no reason. Joe Curry here says, speaking of tanking, why do people think Lonzo Ball is that dude? No great player would play on a team going for the worst record at this stage in his career. Well, Lonzo's injured right now. So Lonzo's a very good player in my eyes. He's a 3-and-D wing with some playmaking upside. I think, a lot of people look at him as a point guard and they're going to label him that way because that's what he did at UCLA. If you actually watch the way he plays in the NBA, he's not a point guard. He kind of plays similarly to Kyle Anderson, but he's a better Kyle Anderson in terms of his shooting. He's more athletic, but he just needs to be healthy. And that's the one thing I'm waiting for. King Day says, do you see the Bulls going on a rebuild? Not yet. I think this offseason becomes more of a question on whether that happened or not. Anthony says, do you have any disputes about the all-star picks? I don't know. There's too much talent right now. The West is like really hard because I'm going to say, well, Fox and Ant should have been all-stars. But then I say that and it's like, well, who shouldn't have been an all-star? And I don't know, like a lot of really good players in the West right now. So, I think both of them deserve to be all-stars. I do. With Curry being out, one of them will at least get in. If there's another injury replacement, the other one will get in. And then in the East, Brunson, you could say, had a shot to get into the playoffs or into the All-Star game. I mean, Harden should have been an All-Star. That's kind of the one I have a gripe with a little bit. It's hard for me to see a reason why Harden, on the second best team in the East by record, isn't a All-Star. I just don't fully understand that, to be honest. Well, now third. They moved down to third after the Bucks got a couple wins. But I think he should be an All-Star, but it's tough. Van Lee says, with a disgruntled LeBron, where is his best landing spot as he waits for Bronny to enter the league? I think his best spot is to stay in LA. Just be patient. Don't jump teams for no reason right now. And just give it a little bit of time. Colin says, I'm a Discord expert. Hit me up anytime. That's great to hear, Colin. Go leave a comment on another video, and then that way I can maybe reach out to you. That way I have a way of actually messaging you on YouTube. Jay Slim says, as a Raptors fan, tell me how trading Gary Trent Jr. makes us better for the future. He's still young, has the most chemistry with Barnes, is our best shooter, and if another Raptor is moved, we have money to re-sign. Well, you have money to re-sign him anyway, right? Like, you have bird rights. It's not a cap space thing. I'm just saying, like, Gary Trent Jr., where are you going with him? Like, right now you have a really good 5-man lineup and you don't win. Like, the Raptors, sometimes you need to take a step backward to go forward. It's just kind of the reality. So I don't know. I think it's like really tough to just look at it and say that's how it is. JD Pierce says, do you think we can get Brandon Miller in the draft? Because I was watching his highlights and he looks really good. We can use a guy like him. He's got the length. He's tall and he's a sharpshooter. Yeah, he's having a great season for Alabama. I would say go check out my mock draft on the channel. I think as a Raptors fan, you're going to like the result of my lottery simulation. But no, I think Miller would really help this team. The Raptors need more shooting in general, and they need a guy like Brandon Miller would fit really seamlessly there. Van Lee says, as a front office guy, what do you think of the Ime Udoka debacle? Is that stuff common amongst non-players in a staff? I mean, no, it's not really common. We are going to start seeing more of that, though, just with the addition of more women in some of these prominent roles. And it's not the women's fault at all, right? I'm not saying that at all. But you think back 30 years ago, there's no women on a coaching staff. Now there is, right? So it's kind of hard to have some of those relationships that become inappropriate when it's an all-guy staff. That's just less common. But it doesn't happen commonly. It's not very common at all. And I think Ime Udoka should not be a head coach in the NBA for a little bit of time at least. Unspoken Hoop Knowledge says, is this team a contender in 2 years? Halliburton, Mathurin. I already talked about that. I am trying to get through all the comments as we go. Very excited. Thank you, Colin, for letting me know. LSG Era says you got a Facebook. I can message you. Just use the Twitter. We don't have a Utility Sports Facebook, but it's really easy to just get a Twitter quick. Just go on Twitter, and then here's our profile on there. So just tweet at us. It works really smoothly. In my opinion, it's much better than Facebook in terms of interacting with people and seeing everything going on. Sport and Game says, please Clippers make a trade so you don't have an asset to trade for Christian Wood. That's kind of how I feel right now. I think they're going to trade for Van Vliet of anything. No More Kings One says, Sheldon, how long before your Kyrie Mavs jersey arrives in the mail? That's a great question. It's on the way. No, I'm just kidding. I haven't ordered one yet. I'm still trying to recover from yesterday, but it's very possible that one gets ordered somewhat soon because it's going to be funny. Sport and Game says, if Money Bates falling down to early second round pick, will you buy the second round pick like we did on drafting Jaden Hardy? Yeah, they should. I think Amani Bates should be a first round pick. He's just too talented of a shooter, too talented of a shot maker. I think he should be a first round level selection, but we'll see. Go check out where I have him in my my mock draft as well. That's an interesting situation going on. John Castiglione says, what will my 76ers do before Thursday trade deadline? We need a backup center, as Harrell was a -15 in 3 minutes last. I know it was brutal. Paul Reed was also a -8, I believe. I'd also like a 3-and-D wing. Both positions do not grow on trees. They really don't. I think for the Sixers, a guy that I like for them would be Nerlens Noel. I think Nerlens Noel would give them at least some length, a little tiny bit of shot blocking behind Embiid. I think that's probably one of the best case scenarios. I don't know. It's really tough, though. It is very, very tough. Mariah Cruz says, any Cavs trade rumors? I'm hearing we're interested in Josh Hart, Josh Richardson, and Luke Kennard. Sorry, I almost said Luke Cornett. Whoops. Let me know, please. So I think as of right now, I'm not hearing anything definitive on Cleveland about, oh, this is who they're targeting, this is who they're after. But those players all make sense. They're all wings who give you a little bit of defense or shooting. Now, I think the one thing, if Cleveland really were to take a massive step forward, they'd find a wing who can shoot and defend. But that's very tough to do. It is. So we'll see exactly what plays out. But SG Era, I'm glad that you were able to get a Twitter. I see that you're now following us. So go ahead and shoot me your trade or your message, whatever you want. And then that way I can take a look at it. But thank you for hitting the follow. Really do appreciate each and every one of you going and doing that. Let's keep the follows coming on Twitter. Let's get everyone in here following me on Twitter so we can continue to talk even when I'm not live on the channel. Brennan says, how long do you think before the league expands with another 2 teams? Probably within the next 5 years, I would say. Troy Dilworth says, thanks for the breakdown on the Rockets. Seems fit is better with Scoot, but it's Wemby. If it's Wemby, I'll be ecstatic with either number 1 or number 2 pick. Though 3 straight years and last, you hope for at least 1 first overall pick. Yeah, you do. But I mean, with where they've picked, second, third, and maybe second again this year or wherever they end up landing, it'll be good. So hopefully that all works out. Jack Welch says, a lot of buzz in Cleveland that the Cavs front office loves Josh Hart. I can see that. It would be a solid rental for them, especially if they only have to give up second-round picks because they do not have a tradable first-rounder. Israel Davila says, Jarris Walker to Oklahoma City. I see that. Oh, my gosh, my throat. I see that as a pretty good fit. He can knock down mid-range jump shots with ease. And he gives you a little bit of frame and physicality that you don't have with Chet. At the one thing I'm going to say about Oklahoma City, the team is very slim and very skilled, but they need a little bit of power. And I think Jarris Walker could give you some of that as well, while still being a skilled player who can catch, pass, dribble, shoot, which are kind of the core components of what Sam Presti is looking to do. Runner Flash says, what is a realistic trade the 76ers can make to improve their roster? I think, in addition of an Andre Drummond and Nerlens Noel in the trade target this year, or as a trade target this year, it does make some sense. So those would be the 2 players I would maybe highlight for them. One Hand Yusuf says, this draft class is stacked. It is so much fun. This draft class is. I just love watching these guys play, to be honest. Very, very good. Brendan says, I hope Seattle gets the Supersonics back. That will be one of the 2 teams, and the other team will be in Las Vegas. And I think the Memphis Grizzlies will move to the Eastern Conference. That's my honest prediction at this point. Jaideep says, do you think there is any chance the Raptors can end up with the number 1 pick or no? I think so. I think there's a chance. Whenever you have ping pong balls in the lottery, you have a shot at it. So that's my thought. Araya says, thank you. Would we have to give up LeVert for Hart? I don't think we should give up LeVert. Stick with the team we have now and make a minor move. No, for Hart, you probably have to give up maybe Osman, which I know, Cavs fans like Chetty Osman as well. But to make a move, you have to give up somebody because of salary implications. So that's kind of what I am seeing there. Ryan Hillier says, got to run, fam. Kyrie a clown. Yeah, he is. Ryan's going to continue to troll me about this, and it's well-deserved. The fact that Kyrie is a Maverick is just so funny to me. So, Ryan, thank you for stopping in today. Really appreciate you. Thank you for the 2 again as well. Really, really do appreciate you for that. Sonny wants to know, what do you think of Hayward for Kevin Love? So, Kevin Love's been getting DNPs lately, which is kind of bizarre. Hayward, I don't absolutely hate it, but I don't know. If I'm Cleveland, I'm looking for something different. Dom K says, chances of an NBA team in Baltimore, not great, in my opinion. If you're from Baltimore, I'm sorry, but I just don't think that Baltimore is going to be getting a team in the near future. Araya says, I'm hearing Love in a second for Hart. See, I could see something like that as well. Love, I think playing in Portland does make some sense as well. John says, I would really like Gary Harris for my Sixers. We need better shooting off the bench, and he also has length. It's not a brutal option. I just, when it comes to playoff time, though, typically teams play 3 guards, 3 wings, and 2 bigs. And for me, Gary Harris is kind of like a guard. Now, I know he could maybe play as a wing, but I see him more as a guard. So your 3 guards are already Melton, Harden, and Maxey, right? So that's why I'm not exactly sold on it, but it's not brutal, though. It's not brutal. Anthony says, wow, your insight on the NBA is amazing, bro. You should be a side coach for a GM front office. Well, thank you for the kind words, Anthony. A lot of work goes into preparing myself for this, all those trade guides up on the channel, all that, ends up bleeding into me being able to hopefully accurately describe what needs to happen for each and every team this trade deadline. Runner Flash here says we need to back up big over shooting. Our bench is good. It's just the rebounding. Look at yesterday's game. That's one of the biggest issues. I think that they definitely need a backup big. LSG Era says, I sent you a tweet. Once you're done, I'll like if you could reply to it. Let's go ahead and get over to that now. Let's go over to our notifications on YouTube. I don't know. I'm trying to process. My Twitter is not really working right now either, so I'm not exactly sure what's fully going on. But yeah, I'm sorry. It's just being a little funky. But let's see here. Let's see if we have any more trades that pop up as well. If you want to send me any trades. Hearn here says Cleveland needs a Crowder type player, a beefy forward who can defend. I agree with that. Think PJ Tucker type. Of course, Tucker's not available, which is why, Crowder's probably one of the best available players this year. Hopefully, you guys have been enjoying the live stream. If you have, just please hit that like button and subscribe to Utility Sports. Would really appreciate that. Also, right now, everyone comment their favorite team. I want to see who's watching this video. Who do we have fans of in here? Represent your team right now down in the comment section. Please type a comment. I'll type mine in right now too. I am a fan of the Dallas Mavericks. So go ahead, leave a comment in there who you are a fan of. Again, I'm a big Dallas Mavericks fan, but I just love watching NBA basketball. So that's what I like to see. DTP, welcome to the stream. He says Pacers. So we got a big Pacers fan in here as well. Brendan's a big-time Kings fan. Says Kings, baby. No more Kings. Says Detroit Pistons. Jaideep's the Raptors fan. Sora says, my favorite team is the New York Knicks. Sora, welcome back to the stream today. I know you were in here yesterday as well. Brian K is a Bulls fan. That's awesome to see. One Hand Yusuf is a big Orlando Magic fan. That's awesome. Cavs fan here with Araya. We look at Ross here is a Golden State Warriors fan. So that's cool to have a Warriors fan in here as well. Anthony says Kings Sacktown, but I love the NBA. It's awesome having a lot of Kings fans in here. I a couple of years ago I never realized how diehard Kings fans were, but they're actually pretty diehard. Jards wants to know what's the chances of a trade today. I would say maybe like a 10% chance the trade goes down today. 1 out of every 10 years we'll get a trade 3 days before the deadline. But realistically, tomorrow's the day that things start to heat up a little bit more in terms of movement. Joe Curry's a fan of the New York Knicks. Troy Dilworth, a fan of the Houston Rockets. Love to see that. LSG Era is a Spurs fan. Go Spurs, go. And then Yosef there is looks like a Kings fan. If I had to guess what he is trying to symbolize there. Tyrone King is a Mavericks fan. Love to see that. Anthony Morales, Kings since 1985. Shout out to that. I wasn't even born yet since you've been a fan. So that's awesome to see. And then Josh May says Clips in 4. So we got a Clippers fan in here as well. Awesome seeing who you guys are a fan of. We have a fan of the Lakers and Pistons. So he likes one Western Conference team, one Eastern Conference team. That's respectable. That's respectable. As someone who always likes to, I like watching James Harden play. One of my favorite players. So like low-key, I'm cheering for the 76ers this year, but I'm not like actually a 76ers fan or anything like that, but I'll cheer for him because I like Harden. Sora says, love the Lakers, though, too. So that's good to know. We got Sora in here is a Knicks and Lakers fan, from my understanding. Yep. And then here we are. Robert Kobe says, Dallas Mavericks since 2002. That's awesome to hear as well. I have been a diehard Mavs fan my entire life. So I feel like you and I have that in common. Definitely awesome to see. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying the live stream. I'm having a lot of fun. It's always fun hearing your guys' favorite teams. And remember, the NBA trade deadline is right here around the corner. I've had a lot of fun streaming. Just make sure you guys leave a like on the stream as well. And we'll talk about some of the best trade candidates too for just a little bit of time. Robert says, my car plate, Forever 41 Mavs tag. That's awesome. That's awesome, Robert. Fuzzy Simpleton says, Trailblazers, Rip City. That's awesome to see. Troy says, the streaming channel is so great. My friends that love the NBA live far away. Cool to just be involved in a long form chat about the NBA in general. Yeah, it's so much fun. Like, that's the thing is, you think, oh, maybe I have a bunch of friends who, talk about the NBA. To be honest, I talk about the NBA with people I work with and that kind of stuff. Some of the people I, have to have discussions with about the NBA. But really, I like my friends, like one of my friends really likes to talk about the NBA. Him and I talk a lot about it, but for the most part, everybody else, I'm just like, we talk a little bit about the NBA. But here, this is like, this is the time, right? So it's so much fun. Uli is a Mavs fan, of course, from Germany. Makes sense with Dirk Nowitzki, the face of the franchise, the number one guy of the Mavs all time. Ross Gio says Lakers turn into the Knicks of past. Yeah, they have a little bit, to be honest. Kai says Spurs fan, let's move Keita Bates-Diop, solid depth wing, so we can sign Charles Bassey. Not bad. Keita Bates-Diop could be a helpful length addition for some teams out there. He's not going to give you a lot in the postseason, but a little bit down the stretch. David Taylor says Kennard for LeVert, who says no. If I'm the Clippers, I say no. I'd rather just have Kennard. I like Kennard so much more than LeVert. I think the Cavs, that's a really good get for them, to be honest, though. Big J52 says, bro, Baltimore Bullets, Washington Wizards since 1978. That's awesome, Jay. Let's get some Big J hype in the chat right now. Everyone comment Big J. Let's get some hype for him in the chat. He's been watching the channel for so long. Let's get some hype for him. I really appreciate him sticking around on the channel. And it's awesome to see somebody who is a Baltimore Bullets, Washington Wizards fan for that long. That's incredible to see. And Runner Flash, who did you originally want the Mavs to draft in the 2022 draft? Because I feel like Hardy was a sneak because he was supposed to go top 3. Well, if you go check out some of my videos, I wanted Hardy, actually. I really, really liked Hardy. But it kind of just panned out that way. I get lucky sometimes with that. Brendan says, Big Boy J, let's go. So we're getting some Big J hype in here. Thank you guys for sending some of that in for Big J. Well deserved. He deserves some hype in the chat. No question about that. Then DM says, Magic fan since 95. That's awesome to see as well. Orlando Magic. So you got to watch some, fun Shaquille O'Neal a little bit. You get to see some Dwight Howard as well in there. You've had some fun years for sure. And I see. So now you live in Philly, so you follow the Magic secondarily. Or maybe you're saying you follow Philly secondarily. That's probably what you're trying to say, actually, which makes sense. So, I get that. I do not live in Dallas. I do not live in Texas, actually. So, I'm still a Mavs fan first, but I do have, close proximity with some other teams as well that I'm a little bit more local to in terms of my involvement, my engagement with them, which is always fun, right? You always have some fun doing that. So, I'm very excited. Let's see. Kevin Herter, electrifying game winner. I downloaded this clip as proof how passionate Kings fans are, especially now. Volume warning was working the game. Does not do the vibe justice. Let's go ahead and see if we can get this on here. I want to see what the volume's like. So I'm watching Herter's game winner against the Jazz. Yeah, I remember seeing this actually. I think I don't remember if I don't think I was watching this game live on TV when it happened. Because I do have NBA League Pass, so I do watch, a really, fat amount of games, to be honest. I watch a ton of games. But I remember this Herter one. I think I saw this on social media, actually, against the Utah Jazz. Keegan Murray, really nice extra pass on that. And the arena just erupts. It gets so loud in there. So thank you for tagging me in that, Brendan. That's awesome to see. And I can only imagine, like even on your phone or whatever, it just sounds incredibly loud. So definitely fun to see. And DM says, yep, 76ers are the second team. And Brendan saying it was so freaking loud. I believe that. Some of the games I've been at in person lately has been some of the biggest crowds I've seen at a certain arena. So it's been kind of fun because it's a little bit more of a boisterous environment than what I'm accustomed to seeing there, because the team that I'm going to is actually a little bit better this year than they typically are. So it's been fun to watch that, and it's been very enjoyable. Mike wants to know, do I see any team taking on Russell Westbrook? The answer to that for me, honestly, is yes. And I think it could be the Utah Jazz. That's the team that makes the most sense to me right now. But San Antonio could also do it. Those are the two teams I would consider maybe having something happen. Brendan says, had my radio full volume and couldn't hear anything. I believe it. I believe it. Spicy says, what do you think the Nuggets will get for Bones Highland? And do I think it'll be Naz Reid? So the Timberwolves do make some sense, right? Tim Connolly, the president of basketball operations for the Timberwolves, was the guy who drafted Bones Highland. So it makes sense to have a potential reunion there. Bones Highland has not played in his last 3 games. He continues to get DNP CDs leading up to the trade deadline. I promise you Bones Highland will be traded. Now, what is it for? I think that there's a few options. He could get traded to Philadelphia for Matisse Thybulle. That's an option. He could get traded to potentially Utah, where that would make sense that Utah would want a Bones Highland type player for Jared Vanderbilt. He could get traded to Minnesota for, say, a Naz Reid, which is interesting. The Nuggets badly need a backup big. Naz Reid would fill that void, but is that what you want to, make your bet on? And then are you going to keep Naz Reid there? That's the question, because he is due for a contract this offseason. So we'll see what happens. But I think those are 3 potential targets for sure. I think Naz is a definitive one that does make some sense, though, too. Joseph says, who do you think is winning the championship this year? That's a great question. Right now, I don't love to pick a West team just because I don't feel great about any of them. Honestly, I think just looking at the situation in the West, I would have to pick the Warriors still to come out. I know that doesn't sound like a great pick. I understand, but I just trust that team in the playoffs. So as long as they get there, I figure they're going to figure some stuff out. And at some point, I think they will. We'll see. You never know, right? I could be wrong. It could be the Grizzlies, right? It could be, if everything with Kyrie plays out perfectly, it could be Dallas. Who knows? Just from representing the West. But in the East, I think the East is probably winning the finals this year. Now, is that Boston, Milwaukee, or Philly? I don't know. It still could be Brooklyn, right? If they have another move up their sleeve, I wouldn't be shocked. But I think this year, and this is part of the best. This is the reason why this year is maybe the best year of NBA basketball. I don't really know who's winning the chip, and it's a lot of fun, right? I really don't know, and I'm really enjoying the fact that I don't know. Raz here says, I think no one will take Westbrook. I think that's a fair point. It's possible. And he's been playing pretty well for the Lakers, so the Lakers keeping him is not a terrible outcome either, honestly. Jaideep says, do you think my Raptors make a trade today or tomorrow or wait till last second? I think the Raptors won't make a trade probably until Wednesday, although tomorrow could maybe heat up a little bit. Remember, the trade deadline is not until Thursday, so we do have a little bit of time before we get there, but I think realistically, Wednesday's the day that I would start circling for maybe a Van Vliet move. But we'll see. There's always things going on that sometimes I'm not aware of every conversation being had. So it's possible, sometimes. And this is the one thing is if they're trading with the Clippers do everything in silence. So they could be really close on a trade right now, and we don't know because the Clippers don't leak anything at all. They've got a very soundproof front office, which is a really good thing to have. Anthony Morales says, I love at Kings at Spurs with 6 minutes left in the game and their own fans screaming, light the beam, and they were sporting Tim jerseys on. Yeah, that's the thing. Light the beam is really, really cool. Honestly, it's a really different thing from what any other NBA team's ever done, and that's what makes it fun, right? Mariah Cruz says, I think Love and LeVert for Hayward and Oubre wouldn't be bad. That's not terrible. I don't know. I'm kind of not sure about Hayward. I'm not really sure. Spicy says, haven't been on your channel in a while, but you're a Mavs fan. If I remember, what were your first impressions on the Kyrie trade? So Yeah, man, I was not happy. For those who want to know, I graded this yesterday as an F for the Mavericks because the way I look at it, the Mavericks aren't good enough to win the finals this year. Kyrie is very likely going to leave in free agency. You traded then essentially away a pick, Dorian and Dinwiddie for nothing, for basically 3 months of Kyrie, right? So I think if all that happens and then the Mavs just don't win and they don't convince Luka that this is the spot to win, that it's very likely that they could lose Luka Doncic 2-3 years from now if he were to demand a trade as his contract starts to dwindle in years. And that's why I was so harsh on it. I just was not a fan of it for Dallas. I am a Mavs fan, was not a fan of it. And I think Brooklyn did really well for themselves in that deal, just given the circumstances, trading away a guy who's been a problem for them. They did really well, in my opinion. And is this the most parity the NBA has ever had, at least in the West? In my lifetime, from what I can actually honestly remember, yes. I think there is a ton of parity right now. The West is very balanced. The East is still, even the East, the top 5 teams are balanced amongst each other. I think it's going to be a really, really great postseason this year. One of the best ones to watch maybe ever. Brendan says, got a dip, but I'll be back tomorrow. Keep up the dope content. Really appreciate you, Brendan. We will just be live here for just a couple more minutes. I'm going to end up ending the live stream at some point here. But Nav says, as soon as I saw the Kyrie trade, I immediately thought about this channel because I know how much of a diehard Mavs fan you are. Any trades you think Orlando should entertain? Now that's funny because it'll be funny too because I whenever another trade happens with another team, I'll think about viewers who have commented about a certain team a ton. So it's funny because it kind of goes back and forth both ways with that. As for Orlando, I don't have any crystal clear trades. I do think that they're going to look around Fred VanVleet. Now, do I think they should do that? I don't know. I don't love it, but I think that they will. So that's kind of my answer to that. Runner says, as a Philly fan, no way we're trading Thibault for Highland when we already lack perimeter defense in the second unit and have Maxey and Melton as our backups. Here's the thing. Trading Thibault for Bones, you have more team control if you were to do that. That's part of the reason why. It's not necessarily he's going to play playoff minutes this year. The other component to that is Thibault goes to Denver, Highland goes to third team, maybe Naz Reid goes to Philly, or whatever third piece you get, maybe Vanderbilt to Philly, something like that. That type of construction is what really makes sense to me. Yes, it's Thibault for Highland, but Highland probably goes to a different team, if that makes some sense. I should have cleared that up before when I first answered that. And like you're saying here, Spicy, it just kind of depends. The thing is, if Kyrie signs, he can still be wild and say the Earth's flat and then just disappear. You look at all the games he's missed for Brooklyn. It's kind of a concern, right? So I don't know. Do you want the Mavs to make another trade? Yes, they need to, because we decided to go all in. It didn't really make a ton of sense to go all in the time we did, but we did. So now we have to really go all in. You can't go halfway all in. You have to go all in. And I think we're going to make another trade or two this trade deadline. And I think it's necessary now. But ultimately, this is not the direction I would have steered the franchise. But I'm going to have to sit and watch the repercussions of it, which will be fun to talk about on YouTube. And I'll critique Nico Harrison and the Dallas Mavericks, and I'll have a lot of fun doing it. But this is going to be the live stream here for the most part today. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Leave a like on the stream. Remember, we're going to be live on the channel for the NBA trade deadline all week long. Today's just kind of more of an introductory stream, 3.5 hours only. I'll probably be live for 6 hours tomorrow, maybe 5-6 hours tomorrow. And then as the trade deadline continues to heat up, we'll have more and more and more content, a lot of different stuff coming out on the channel. I really hope you guys did appreciate the content today. Don't worry, at least see your team didn't trade 4 picks and 5 players for wannabe Walker Kessler. Spicy. I get it. I definitely hear you. And then Anthony says, hey bro, if you're ever going to be on TNT as a tuber guest, I'll get jersey made with your favorite number. Well, that would be awesome. Who knows what will happen with any of that, but it'd be really awesome. Spicy says it's hard as a Wolves fan. I get it. I'm pretty aware of what's going on with Minnesota. I work pretty close with the Minnesota Timberwolves, so I understand some of the ups and downs of that. Let's look back at some of the comments here. Looking at Mark Cuban. This one from Van Lee. Let's look at DM. A combination of Mike Conley, Vanderbilt, and Beasley for Ben Simmons. Probably you see the Jazz get a draft pick in that as well. And then No More King says, Sheldon, how long before your Kyrie Mavs jersey arrives in the mail? That's got to be one of my favorite comments from today. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. It was a lot of fun streaming today, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video. Make sure to go check out some of those mocks on the channel that I had today and that Mavericks Trade Guide 2.0. Thanks again, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.